I'll just retweet with some.
Okay. All right. Let's see here.
So we're live.
We are live.
We're live, Gordo. I'm happy to be here with you, man. I'm happy to be here with you.
I appreciate you being on.
Absolutely. To the greatest GA in Clemson history, Adam Gordon, who has moved on to bigger and better things. And here I am, a very grateful participant in Rising Coaches right now.
So thank you for having me on. Any of those things are true. Or have moved on to bigger and better things. That might have been the peak, T.O.
Oh, Clemson?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I don't know if that's true. You moved on pretty quick, man.
Well, I was there 3 years. I did the football GA route. Like, I extended it.
You did?
They had to kick me out of the nest.
Yeah, I basically went back and did that whole – and I had to finish my undergrad, obviously, because like you know, but some other people that may not know, I left early. And then basically I was finishing my undergrad. The first year I came back and helped Brad Brownell and company basically as an undergraduate assistant or volunteer assistant, if you will. And basically it just it evolved from there. So I only got 1 year of the GA ship and then moved on to Division II. So that's a whole nother story, if you will. But it turned out to be a good one, a good learning experience, and had some things happen. And now I'm happy to be working with you a little bit.
Yeah, man, for sure. And we're going to circle back to that topic about your playing career and your Clemson days, because we got lots to talk about there for sure.
Probably too much.
Too much to talk about.
Yeah.
You over beers another time. But yeah, first of all, man, thank you for being on the Rising Coaches podcast live. This is something new for us, so we're excited to always be trying to push the envelope and figure out different ways we can provide content. So yeah, I appreciate you being the guinea pig, man.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I appreciate you having enough faith in me to use me as a guinea pig, because I've talked to several others and they're not willing to do as much, because I think some people will think I'll just kind of pop off at the mouth. But I'm excited to be here. We have some good people coming on today. Coach Kelly Graves, University of Oregon. I think that's going to be fun. He has had some studs during his time. I think he's coached, 7, 8 All-Americans during his time as a head coach, not only at Oregon, but at Gonzaga as well. And I think it's going to be interesting to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, no question. He's a stud. Obviously one of like the best in the business right now, men's or women's. So really excited to hear some of the wisdom that he's got for us. And then Simon Harris, one of the best dudes in the business, for one of the other teams that probably had a really good chance of winning a national championship this year on the women's side at NC State.
Yeah, he's over there working with my main man, Houston Fancher. So that's good. NC State's always good on the women's side. And Wes has done a fantastic job there as well. I'm interested to see what he has to say, simply because I played against him. So kind of his route and his journey to becoming a high major assistant on the women's side, I think that's going to be interesting in itself. And I may, dabble in a little trash talk from our playing days as well, because I remember some battles that we had during my time at Clemson and his time with the Wolfpack.
We got them more than they got us, but they did get us a couple costly times.
When was that?
They got us in the this might have been the year after you left, but they got us in the ACC tournament in the first round.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Is that when they had Cat Barber?
I'm sorry?
Was that when they had Cat Barber?
Man, I don't remember any of the guys, to be completely honest. I remember they had an international point guard that was really good.
The Turkish kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was good. That's good.
That's the only kid I remember.
Hey, getting talent at NC State's never been an issue.
Right.
Yeah, and they continue to do that on both sides, the men and the women's side up there. So it's pretty interesting. It's a great town, and I'll go as far as to say this: the home court atmosphere. Now, I'm pretty ACC biased, obviously, because I worked with a lot of ACC radio broadcasts, and obviously I played. But Louisville, along with NC State, those two game presentations, Gordo, unbelievable. And for him, I'm interested to see what he says about being able to recruit to that type of atmosphere, because from what I understand, and I'm sure you know better than I do, they play in a different gym. They don't play at RNC, do they?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't think they play in the same gym because it creates a better atmosphere for them. So I'm interested to see what he says there. He's obviously been able to rise through the ranks pretty well, and to be able to work with that coaching staff there obviously bodes well for his future, whatever his goals are in this profession, which I'm also eager to learn about.
Yeah, and you'll see after a couple minutes of talking to him why he's moved up so quick.
Really, I bet he's pretty personable guy.
Yeah, great personality.
Okay.
But yeah, I know you joked about me using you as the guinea pig, but there's no one better, because you are now a member of the media. That is like your title now, right?
The fake news. I'm a member of the fake news. No, I'm transitioning into that space, and I've been lucky enough over the past 2 years to, while I was working with Coach Brownell at Clemson, he actually recommended me to do the radio as a color commentator with Don Munson, 105.5 The Roar, and the flagship station at Clemson. And I did that for 2 years, and I just really enjoyed it.
You're already like the radio guy, because you're dropping in the call numbers.
No, that's not necessary. Well, I let Munson handle all that. I'm just here for the rest of the show. But it's been pretty cool that I've been able to learn under those guys, because Don's been doing it for a long time, and basically I'm a glorified backup to Tim, the legend that is Tim Beret, who I want him to work as long as he wants to, because he deserves as much. He's been doing it. He's a Clemson legend. He's definitely an SID legend around the country. And I didn't know how far the SID ship went until I started kind of talking to Tim Beret, and then realizing all these national awards he was getting. And then the awards just kind of kept rolling and rolling. And now he's moved ahead to, he's semi-retired. And by that, I mean, he's helping out the PGA Tour. So he gets to go to all these nice golf courses. So he's got a pretty plush setup. And then obviously just an unbelievable at what he does, as is evidenced by everybody who speaks so highly about it.
The Tim, that's what we called him.
The Tim, who will bring up a stat from 1972 on a whim, will know everybody's record. It's you've talked to the Tim.
Yeah, I worked with the Tim.
Oh, the Tim is a stud. I wish I was on Tim's level, just being able to right away. I don't have that ability. So, but Tim Beret is the man.
But tell us about like your podcast, and so where can people find your show? What are you doing, in terms of the radio waves?
Yeah, well, I do a weekly radio show with Rob Sanders out of Spartanburg. That's broadcast through the Low Country. It's called The Rundown with Rob, and I'll do a Monday, section, if you will, a spot with him every Monday. And then I've been able to create a podcast that's called Let It Fly with Terrence Oglesby. And that's been, it's mostly focused on Clemson basketball, obviously, because there's not a Clemson basketball, podcast or way to strictly look at the basketball piece. And it also talks about ACC basketball in general for the most part, and then also professional. And I've had some different interviews, and I've been able to interview some coaches. I've been able to interview one of the biggest, he is the biggest basketball reporter in Sweden. So we kind of dabble back and forth between professional basketball as well as college basketball. So it's been fun. It's been a bit of an experience. I am in the process of moving, and this is the first time I've brought out I had to go through some boxes to find my equipment to work with you, but I'm happy to say that I'll have another podcast out here in the next couple of days. So Let It Fly with Terrence. It's been fun. It's kind of exploratory, but I had people hitting me up asking me if I would venture into something like that. And I have, and I've enjoyed it.
All right. We're here with our special guest host of the day, Terrence Oglesby, from Clemson Hoops and Clemson Media. And soon we'll have Simon Harris from NC State. And at the top of the hour, see, I'm in my radio voice now.
There you go.
At the top of the hour, we'll have Kelly Graves, the legend from Oregon women's basketball. So we're excited and appreciate everyone tuning in. All right. Well, you like kind of touched on it, like your career very, very briefly, but let's let some of these people know who you are, Tio. Like people probably don't remember or know, unless you're like an ACC fan or a Clemson fan, but Terrence is, he played at Clemson when I was there. And I guess we overlapped one of your 2 years. I was there for your sophomore season. I know you're listed at 6'2", but I'd give you 6'1.5".
6'1".
I'd give you 6'1.5".
Well, here's the thing. I got T-Rex arms, so I'm a small 6'2".
Okay.
But if I really stretch my neck out and I kind of give it a little half inch on the toes, you can give me 6'2".
Okay, 6'2".
John Sanderson was nice enough to give me that extra half inch. So when you're a small 2 guard like I was,
that's what I was going to say. First of all, you weren't like that size in the ACC on a top 25 team.
Yeah.
You averaged 10 points a game and then 13 points a game as a 6 foot, not super athletic, 6'2".
Hey, hold on.
No disrespect.
Hold on.
It just makes it that much more impressive. You weren't a point. You weren't the primary ball handler. You were a bucket getter, sharp, one of the best shooters to ever, I'm going to say it, to ever play at Clemson for sure, but probably in the ACC. Obviously, there's been some elite company that I'm putting you in there with, but 13 points a game, pretty damn good as a sophomore.
And higher in ACC play. I don't mean to just kind of add some sugar on top of that.
Yeah, do it.
But higher in ACC play. No, Oliver Purnell did such a nice job of fitting pieces together. And I think that, we're on a coaching podcast, but I feel it's important that not only do you need good players, and we had a lot of good players, but we fit so well. Especially my sophomore year, if you want to look back at it, you had DeMontez Stitt, who, rest in peace, buddy, but an elite defender, an elite speed guy. He's able to get other guys involved. He was able to finish around the rim. You had Casey Rivers, who was an isolation kind of bucket getter, who was really smart and did a lot of good things off the ball. You had Trevor Booker, who is obviously an NBA, played in the NBA for 8 years and had a heck of a career. And then you had the ultimate athlete in Raymond Sykes. And that's not to mention some of the guys that were coming off the bench there. He did a great job of piecing us together because I was able to, basically bring guys out and space out the floor for the other super athletes that we had on the playing floor. And I will give Oliver Purnell credit for that. Now, he did give himself, he gave myself, excuse me. He gave me the ultimate freedom, which I didn't quite understand at the time, but he really did a good job of letting guys be them and kind of being hands off when it came to being on the floor. So Oliver's a heck of a coach. Ultimate green light.
But we were talking about it last week. I was talking to Pastorino and I talked to Mike Morrell because I'm working actually on a Oliver Purnell documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about it. Like we'd be playing some of the best teams in the country and we'd be going toe to toe with them the whole game. And then you had the ability to just knock down 3 straight threes in a matter of 30 seconds. And now all of a sudden you go from being up 1 or 2
being up 10
digits and it was over.
Yeah. Well, that came, to be honest with you, I just wasn't scared to take him. And Gordo, just as well as anybody, man, I worked at it. I really, really worked at it. And I was able to, first of all, I want to go through the obligatory, I want to thank God and my teammates before I say all that. But those guys did a nice job of finding me in those moments. And to be honest with you, I became a little more shot thirsty going towards the end of the game. Not that I didn't not that I held back by any means, but I was, one of the reasons I was successful is because I was so confident, and that came from my hard work, and I always knew I was going to be okay. So if I missed that, it didn't bother me at all. I was ready to shoot the next one. I didn't even remember if I'd missed 4 or 5 in a row. And that's the thing that also speaks to Purnell. He kind of put up with if I was going to miss 4 in a row. He's like, we're just going to hang with him because he may just pop off and hit 4 in a row. So credit to him. And yeah. So, I mean, I had a knack for that.
Yeah, no question. And you had that, you said it, confidence is probably the key word. Like it only took one going in for you to feel like you were on fire, is the impression that I always got. And like, so if you made back-to-back shots, it was like, it's over.
I
Finally,
wasn't passing another one. It
yeah.
didn't matter where it was either. And I had this conversation with somebody the other day. They say, well, if you would have played today, would have been different. And I was like, well, uh, I don't know that it would have been, but I think because I was playing 12 years ago, I think there was, 3-point line was closer. There weren't as many threes being taken. So I think I stood out more because of that reason.
Yeah, no question. It was before, but I still think it would have been the same. And there's no question, like the 3-point line moving back wouldn't have phased you one bit because you were shooting it one step in front of half court, basically.
The paw, baby, the paw. No, but even so, when I moved to Europe and where the 3-point line is now, it was still an adjustment for me too.
All right, so tell us about that, because you went pro after your sophomore season.
Yeah. I'm happy for guys now that have the opportunity to get more information, because I wasn't in that party. This is before all this stuff started happening with you could talk to agents, you could put your name in, take your name out. That wasn't a part of it. You basically had to put your name in, I think, by like April. And we had just gotten finished with the season. So I was getting information and I never had a chance. I never had a chance to back out. So because of the rules that were set in place. And two, we were getting information from the wrong people, which was a mistake on our part. But 12 years ago, the information wasn't as accessible. So I'm very happy for guys now that, I think it was Noel Eastern who just transferred out of Purdue to goes to Michigan. He's put his name in twice and averaged 4 points a game. Like, that's a great thing for him to be able to be like, hey man, it's just not going to work. You need to continue to stay in school. And I wish that those avenues would have been available during my time. But even so, I turned 2 years at Clemson into a 9-year professional career, which a lot of people would say was a success, but it was good. I spent a lot of time in I want to say 7 different countries, Italy, Ukraine, Sweden, Spain, France, all over the place, and was able to meet my wife while I was in Sweden. So everything turns out for the better eventually, Gordo.
Okay, other than meeting your wife, basketball-wise now, give me the highlight of your pro career.
I hit a lot of game winners over there, Gordo.
That's a great answer.
I don't know. I hit a lot of game winners. I would say whenever I played in Sweden, that was my favorite team. But we didn't get paid a ton compared to like the Spains and the Russias, but we had so much fun, and they had turned, even though smaller venues, they turned everything into a show, everything into a performance. So we were packed. We were filled to the brim every game, and I had 2 game winners that year, and then we had JJ Miller, who played NCAA. I don't know if you remember JJ or not, who was a really good player. I think he had like 40 on Duke or something like that.
Really good.
Yeah, really good player. We played together, and he was injured that game, one game, and I went for 35 and 12 or something. And then I was MVP in the Republic of Georgia after in the finals of the Cup. I ended up with almost a triple double. You wouldn't believe it, Gordo. I got some rebounds. That wasn't customary of me in college, as you know, but I had a double double in the 30s. I want to say 32 and 12, something like that. So I'll take that MVP, and that'll be my highlight. So there you go.
Pretty good. That's pretty good.
Not bad. It was a good time.
How was living in Georgia? Like, what is that whole experience like?
It was difficult. I mean, it was block housing, typical block housing. It makes you really appreciate the little things, as far as, they cut our water off. There was one time they cut our water off for a week at a time because they had some piping issues. And, thank God our internet worked, but my wife was with me. So it was like, she couldn't take a shower, and, or because of that, some of our AC went out. So it's, excuse me, it's 90 degrees and we can't take a shower. And when the water goes out, you don't really think about washing dishes, taking a shower, drinking water, being able to flush a toilet, which is pretty gross, man. So there's a lot of things like a lot of small things that you definitely take for granted. And one of the things I'm so happy now that I'm done is that I get to live here. And I think uh, I have a greater appreciation for that than some.
Yeah, no question. And then you went from there into coaching. Uh, is coaching for you? Is that a path you could see yourself going down again or no?
I mean, I could see it. Gordo, as you know, I had a death in the family. My father passed away in August. And I early in this whole thing, I was saying, well, I need to be there for my family. So I backed out. But turns out I needed my family to kind of get through some things. And I'm very happy to be with them and to spend more time with them. And I understand, like, hey, coaching, it's a grind. And you know me more than most. I don't mind the grind, but what I do mind is my kids having to move maybe 5 times in 5 years. And that's not something that I was willing to dive in at this point. And we were able to find some other avenues to where hopefully I can stay around the game and you know, still be able to teach basketball just at a different capacity. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to do with the radio and hopefully eventually, doing some television games and color commentary.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, we're joined by special guest Terrence Oglesby. And coming up soon, we have Simon Harris of NC State. And then at the top of the hour, Kelly Graves from Oregon. And we're going to be talking about The Last Dance. I want to jump into that next with you because everyone's watched it, and obviously lots of great stuff coming out of that show. And then also some things to look out for tomorrow. The Jump, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. We're talking to 3 coaches who have made the jump from high school to college basketball in their coaching careers. That's going to be live streamed for free on our YouTube page. So anyone who's interested in hearing from Harold Rayford at Tennessee Prep, Jody Bailey at the University of New Orleans, or Evan Wiley at West Florida, they're going to give us great insight on how they were able to transition from coaching at the high school level to the college level. So make sure you check that out. And if you enjoy the content that we're doing, we do this multiple times a day for our members. And if you're interested in purchasing a membership, you can find out that information at risingcoaches.com/membership. All right, Tio, let's talk The Last Dance.
Let's do it.
Did you?
I want to talk about Steve Kerr.
Let's talk about Steve Kerr.
I want to talk about Steve Kerr. So Steve Kerr, he gets overlooked a lot, and I see a lot of slander from a lot of people on Twitter saying, well, Steve Kerr was just kind of that dude could play. And to me, one of my favorite things is part of being a coach. And I was a Division II assistant after I left Brown Elf. I was a Division II assistant for a year, or half a year more like. And one of the most intriguing parts to me is seeing why guys act the way they do. And to see Steve Kerr and why he was so tough and why he was able to battle through some of those things, especially with, his father being, basically murdered on site in Beirut. And for him to be able to kind of push through that and his mother to be able to push through that, you see why he's been not only become such a tough-minded individual, but you also see why he kind of dives into the politics things and all that thing. And I thought that was pretty interesting, but kind of break it down to where we talk about Phil Jackson and his ability to manage egos and manage players is something that I'm going to not only ask Coach Simon, but Coach Graves as well. Like, both teams have had very talented individuals and what I would assume to be alpha personalities. So I'm kind of interested to see how both those coaches go about coaching those players a certain way. And obviously you have certain levels of accountability that you hold to not only them, but the whole team, but also, how do you let certain things slide? And how do you, if you get my drift? I just feel like the balance with some of your better players is probably the most intriguing thing to me as far as the mental dynamic.
Yeah, Phil Jackson juggled that better than anybody. And they didn't even get into the Lakers. I mean, you talk about the egos and the the politics you had to juggle there with Shaq and Kobe and how public that was. I don't know if people remember, like every day especially me growing up in Southern California, like every day in the LA Times would be a new article. Shaq said this, Kobe said that. This is what Derek Fisher and Rick Fox said is going on behind us. You know, like it was just drama. And through it all, and even like with the Bulls stuff, like the Last Dance, that whole last year, what a media circus it was. And with Dennis Rodman going to, how about that? I didn't
NWO, baby. He went in there with Hulk Hogan and just laid the smack down. I was reading where he made $250,000 to make that trip, and they gave him a plane to get back home, and he only got fined 20. I call that good business.
That's good business.
Like, hey, look, I call that good business. Like, is it professional? Absolutely not. You're in the freaking finals. Like, you're at the pinnacle, and you have to make a detour to go hit somebody with a chair. But even
I remember that he did the wrestling thing, and I definitely remember him being there on, what was it, the NWO? Trey Meyer. I hope Trey's listening because he's a big wrestling fan and was a huge Hulk Hogan fan. But I didn't realize it was during the playoffs, like, and he missed practice
during the finals.
Yeah, I didn't remember that.
And how about Phil's just like, hey, you know, he disrespected us. He made us look bad. And then, true to Dennis Rodman fashion, hits 2 huge free throws and gets something like 20 rebounds. And what was it, game 5 or something?
He hit a 3.
That's unbelievable. And then talks to everybody the whole time.
He never shoots threes.
And here, yeah, that's the crazy part. And like, if that game turns out any other way, Gordo, if that game turns out any other way, like, that's the story for until today, 20 years down the road. But he played so well that it was like a minor blip in a 10-episode documentary.
Yeah, no question.
Unbelievable.
But he's tough. I mean, he's as tough as they come. And they said it time and time again, like, you know exactly what you're getting out of him in the game on the court.
Yeah, my favorite one was that Indian drill that they were talking about, like the person last in line has to, and Dennis just takes off sprinting just to kind of prove, like, hey guys, say whatever you want. I'm here for it. And he's a 0.01 percenter. That's what I would call that type of athlete. Him, Jordan, Pippen, 0.01% player. And those guys, you just kind of got to let them go. Now, do I think we'll ever see somebody like Dennis Rodman again? No. I think he's one of the unique people in history. So there you go.
Okay. I was thinking as you were talking about that and reminded me of the Indian drill part where he's just shows up probably hungover and just crushes everybody in a race. Maybe
somebody can do it. Some people can do it. I played in Ukraine. And we had guys smoking at halftime. They would go into the showers and smoke a cigarette at halftime. And it was one of our veterans. And then he would just take a really good cough before he went out and didn't even warm up. And he would knock down 4 threes, play subpar defense, and then get a win and then call it a day. like it happens a lot.
At halftime.
Say again?
I say there's nothing like ripping a heater at halftime before you.
Yeah, no kidding. Just toughing one out. Just, hey, I need to calm my nerves a little bit. Happens all the time.
All right, Tio, let's take a quick minute to talk about Dr. Dish.
I wish I had Dr. Dish, Adam. I wish I had Dr. Dish. I've seen a buddy of mine, Lynn Smith, down at Landrum High School. He just got this Dr. Dish, and you can command the type of workouts that your guys do. Now, I know that you're not supposed to work guys out, but if you're able to be like, hey, let's just voluntarily say this workout would be good for you today, you can program what your guys do. I think it's a pretty awesome thing, to be honest with you. And I wish we had it. I'm just going to throw a little slander out there. I only had the gun, and it just threw that thing back at me. I think Dr. Dish is better. I'm just going to throw that out there too, Gordo. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to go into naming names or anything, but
I'll throw them out there.
I'll say this. The thing that I always hate about shooting machines, I'm sure you can relate, because you were very regimented in your workouts.
I was.
You were very regimented. You had to have the right ball. You had to have the right manager. Yeah. The freaking shooting machines that I've used, like for a lot of my career, every 7th shot, it gets jammed. And you got to go up there and you got to jiggle the thing and get the other ball in.
Don't have that with the dish.
It takes you out of your rhythm. And I honestly, have not had that experience with Dr. Dish.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Dr. Dish to you.
Mr. Dish, Dr. Dish. He got his he got his doctorate. Dr. Dish. He got his doctorate. No, I always had to have Trey. Trey Baier was my guy. I don't get anything done without Trey Baier. We would go out to shoot arounds and stuff like that. If Trey didn't have his shoes tied, I'd be upset with him. We'd have to be the first ones in there to get shots up. Trey Baier was my guy. He was now a Presbyterian. I love Trey. Trey's my main man. I love him.
All right. So visit drdishbasketball.com, mention this podcast, and save an extra $300 off on your next purchase, of the Dr. Dish Rebel, the All-Star, and the CT models. It doesn't get you $300 off the home version, but you should get the home version because that's a perfect thing for the quarantine. Simon Harris is in the house, ladies and gentlemen, from NC State women's basketball with the red pen behind his ear.
Little extra swag. I love it.
Thank you. I have orange ones.
Highlighter.
I do have orange ones.
Simon, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. We just had a little summer meeting with the team and went over that, and then a little recruiting Zoom afterwards. So doing well. How are you all doing?
We're doing great, man. Appreciate you being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's awesome.
Hanging in there, man. Now, let me ask you about this, just because you started off with the whole Zoom thing.
Yeah.
How are you guys kind of proceeding, without going into too much detail, obviously? How are you guys proceeding with basically position meetings and things like that? Are you doing it as a whole? Do you break it up? How are you guys attacking it at NC State?
That was actually a big part of that call today. So it's going to see how we're going to progress in that going forward. I think we basically talked about the different protocols that we have of actually trying to get our kids back on campus.
Right.
What we've been talking about. So we kind of still want to explore what we're doing there. But preliminarily, mainly, we've all had our own position kids, and we've kind of talked to them in different aspects of what they need to be doing. But in the day and age we live in, everybody is a trainer. So a lot of them are being about their business basketball-wise. So talking about different things we want them to work on, like we talked about in our end-of-year meeting, and kind of letting them do their deal and vibe. And then strength and conditioning wise, just structuring that more so.
Right.
Yeah. So just still exploring it. And it's been pretty cool to get that one-on-one with kids, just to kind of, what did you work on this week? This was the plan that we had for you. Did you stay on that? Did you work on other stuff? Let's amplify your deficiencies and all of that. So more individualized, segmented between my coworkers and myself. And then today was a big, this is what we're looking to do. And then it'll be very Zoom intensive, but we're fortunate a lot of our kids are actually not too far. So whenever we get the go ahead, we'll be able to just bring them on campus, do what we need to do, probably from an individual aspect.
And your kids are clearly committed to the cause. You can tell that by your record last year. So I'm sure that makes it easier. Speaking of committed to the cause, Simon, we were just talking The Last Dance here.
Oh my gracious.
Give me your biggest takeaway from last night's episodes.
Biggest takeaway from last night is that separation anxiety is a real thing. I woke up this morning like, what am I going to do on Sunday now? Like I literally, and then thankfully that tweet comes through that Wednesday they're going to show Game 6 and we'll be able to have the behind the scenes aspect of that. The biggest thing that I took away is just I think the thing that struck me the most is the post show. And the way that Jackie McMullen said that there's never been a more voracious winner than Michael Jordan. And when you go through the course of, especially the later episodes, when he's having those conversations of, well, this is the way I do it, and I had to bring guys to my level, and this is how I did it. And you may or may not agree with how he did it, but the proof is in the pudding. I mean, 6 world championships out of 8 seasons. And I think the one year he came back where they lost in the Eastern Conference Finals. All I could take away from that is the tough love aspect of it. And it's hot topics that we discuss all the time now with the modern age of coaching, and just to see how he was and how he had to bring everybody up, but then also he's accepting of people's stuff like the Dennis Rodmans of the world. Huge takeaway was Steve Kerr's background, heard about it, but didn't know the depth of it.
Yeah.
And for going from the punching Michael in the chest to then hearing the conversation about how he lost his father and dove into basketball and how he gained the respect of everybody. And now he is a premier coach in the NBA. That was unbelievable for me. Coach is kidding me, I guess, but it was unbelievable. And then overall, I think we need a Dennis Rodman movie. That just has to happen, I think. I'll start a GoFundMe if we need to, but that whole deal is just unbelievable.
Yeah, he was a wild boy, Coach. He was a wild boy. Hey, let me ask you this. And Gordo and I were talking basically right before you came on, and you at NC State, you guys get studs all the time, and obviously you're going to have some personalities that I'm not going to say wear others down. How do you go about, you and Coach Moore, how do you go about coaching those people and holding everybody to the same levels of accountability, but at the same time, you got to give them a little bit more leeway? How are you guys able to balance that as the season progresses?
I think the major thing that we do a really good job of here is in the preliminary stuff of while we're recruiting these kids, we go very in depth on who they are as an actual person. I think in this day and age, a lot of places have kind of lost that of it. It's like well, where are you ranked? And then we're going to figure it out when you get here.
Right.
We're really big on having a very cohesive environment, like really big. I mean, like even that call I just referenced before, Coach Moore's asking them questions about how we want to take steps forward. And I think to your point and your question, a major thing that we also do is we learn our learners. So it's you can't treat everybody the same. There's no blanket way to do this as a basketball coach. It just doesn't work anymore. So it's you find people at where they are, and then we kind of navigate from there. So there's the full aspect of everybody, this is our mantras or the way that we go about our days. This is how we do, this is the expectation. We actually have a hashtag, we call it We Win. And that's in everything. Like, we want you to try to win everything you do. And we actually have the conversations of, everybody has their things that go on outside the gym. And it's, kind of when you get to those lines, like, we're here to do our job, but then we can only do that because before you come in there, I already know all of your stuff. We've had this conversation. Our kids come into our offices. We have the dialogue back and forth constantly about basically everything. And we try to mold it that way from having a genuine relationship. So it's not like oh, what's wrong with you today? We understand, we have an understanding of it, and we actually kind of talk about it. So it's just more organic. And then we can avoid the having to, oh, well, here she goes today, or well, here he goes today. So trying to kind of get it early when setting your standard for your environment, and then moving forward from there. But day to day,
I love what you said. Learn your learners. I think that's an incredible piece, because not everybody takes in information the same way. It sounds like you guys have done a fantastic job of kind of regulating that and regulating your message, really.
For sure. And it's an ongoing process. I mean, and like we said, everybody's different. So and I think it's really cool to get to know that, because that's when you build your genuine relationships. It's I can talk to you this way, or you can talk to me this way, because I know where it's coming from. And, and people come from different situations and have been raised differently, different basketball situations and things. And the earlier you can do that in recruiting and know that, I think that's when you can first see if you want to bring that into your environment that you've established here. But then if it's not what you're 100% used to, if it can adapt and you can help them grow into what you need it to be.
We're talking to Simon Harris, NC State women's basketball, and we got special guest host Terrence Oglesby. Moore in the house.
We had some battles, Coach. We were just talking about it before you came on. You guys had some teams, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. And so did you. Shoot. I was when Gordo asked me about this, I immediately go you want to talk about a sniper? Like a dude who could handle the ball, but then let that thing fly too.
I don't know if there was a whole lot of ball handling. It was one or two dribbles, not either passed it or shot it. And most of the time I aired towards the shooting portion of that argument.
Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong. I wish I could have shot as well as you did.
Yeah, well, you guys had some good players, Lorenzo Brown, and I'm trying to think of who else was there. Gosh, you had was it Brandon Costner?
Ben McCauley, Courtney Fells.
Oh, Courtney was a good player.
Yeah, Courtney was good. He was a hooper. We had some guys, man. Dennis Horner actually had a cup of coffee in the league for a while. Was very proud of him.
I just realized this. Both of you guys are now back at your alma maters.
How about that?
What is that experience like?
Go ahead, Tio.
I don't know yet. I'm still moving there. No, no, it's good. There's definitely some familiarity there. I know people, I'm obviously taking a different path than what coach has, but it's good to feel at home. And I think that plays into a big role. And, when I was basically helping out the basketball team, I was able to kind of speak from a perspective of, hey, I was here.
Yeah.
And nobody will support you the same way, your recruiting job, I'm still being, I leave early, I come back, my scholarship's still fulfilled. There's a lot of things that come along with that, that really former players will, you have that information and you know how you'll be treated. And to me, it's a sense of relief because my wife loves it there. I love all the people still associated with the university, and I'll let you take it, Coach Harris, but it's just been we're really excited about getting back, and hopefully we can add to whatever portion of the university we can.
For sure. For sure. And I mean, you said that perfectly. Like the beauty of it is you're walking on campus and there's the familiarity of it. And I think the coolest thing was while you're having your recruiting conversations, like we're in the Zoom age now. So we do our presentation or home visits, and it's kind of cool while you have that segment of staff introduction. I get to speak of, basketball is all about relationships. It's all about the role models you had. And a great thing for me is a lot of those people that I have in my life, I met here. So I'm not calling you with the cookie cutter, hey, I've been brought to, XYZ University and try to bring you here. Somebody recruited me to come here. I got my degree from here. And I'm speaking to you from a place of that familiarity of like, I did this, I walked this, I lived this, and this is why I want to help you do the same thing, because I'm not, I didn't come here 9 months ago and had to learn the campus. I mean, I grew up, my dad got here in 1996. And I mean, we've been through different ADs and different head coaches and those relationships with the other sports. I mean, the baseball coach is literally one of the first people I met when I moved here. Our student assistance fund people. I mean, like literally they helped us move into our house when we came here. So there's nothing like it. And just that confidence of when things don't really go wrong a lot of times, but they don't go the way you want to, that it's family. It's a different conversation. They genuinely want to help you succeed because you're a part of that family that helped grow here.
Simon, do you find yourself being like the old man in town at the end of the block? It's like, I remember when
Absolutely
built up, this was all fields.
No question. I actually did today on our call. You just have those moments to be like, man, you guys are really lucky it didn't look like this when I was here. Or the meals have improved, or the facilities are unbelievable. And especially where we play. If you guys get a chance to see Reynolds Coliseum now, it's ridiculous. I would have said yes a lot faster during my recruiting process. But yeah, definitely find that it's walk down memory lane once or twice a day and just point out stuff like, yeah, you see, those were cows over there. And now it's a $132 million library. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
How's my man Houston Fancher doing? Is he doing any work, or is he just running around the office?
Is doing great. Like H keeps me on task. I mean, the dude, he's literally one of the best people I know. I mean, he's never had a bad day. Always smiling. Like he's doing great. He's doing great.
My dad had him in basketball camp. He's from Newport, Tennessee. My dad had him in basketball camp when he was 8. So there you go.
Goodness gracious.
Known him forever.
Dad did a good job because he stayed in it the rest of his life. So
yeah, no kidding.
That's awesome. Well, how's the day been going? You guys been chopping it up here for a little bit, huh?
We're chopping it up. We talked a little bit about T.O.'s experience for going from Clemson to being a pro. We talked Last Dance. I wanted to share. I didn't get an opportunity to share it, but I think my biggest takeaway from yesterday's episode was when they were at the end of practice, they were shooting from the deep wing is what I would call it, and how everyone was heaving the ball like it was a full court shot. I mean, they were literally like, they were shooting from 30 feet. It wasn't that far. But just to think that, like, what was that, 20 years ago now?
Yeah.
That dudes couldn't, today, I bet you 80% of NBA players could, shoot that with their normal form and either drain it. Most of them probably make it.
Yeah.
But they were shooting like legit, like how I would shoot a half court shot.
During this whole quarantine, I will say this, and everybody is like, well, Jordan wouldn't have done it today. I went back and watched the game where he had 63 in Boston.
Oh yeah.
And if you go back and look at it from kind of an analytic thing, you look at every point he scores, like, yeah, that transfers. Yeah, that would have worked today. That would have worked. So it's not like, if you look at somebody like Dennis Johnson, where you're like, I don't know. But like Jordan, like he would have transcended any era. And some people want to argue, 70s and 80s, but people didn't carry the ball then, but everything Jordan did, it was still it would have translated to today's game.
No doubt about it. He just completely is devoid of the era conversation. And the guy could just get it done. I mean, one of off the top of our heads, maybe 5 or 6 guys who, I mean, when they bring up, well, he would have played here, I was like, it didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
He's just an assassin.
No question.
Assassin. I mean, like when Bob Costa said yesterday, he said the push-off situation, he's talking about that. And Jordan already gave he was on his toes and he broke down how he couldn't have stopped the move anyways. And Costas goes, yeah, he was like a maitre d' showing somebody to their table. It was like, well, he did that to everybody. In every instance. So
what I thought was interesting was how Jordan was talking about how he read the guy's feet.
Loved it.
And I don't think that people that aren't just ingrained in basketball don't pick up on that nuance.
No question.
And, you go back and look at it and, Byron Russell was always hunched over and he was very forward.
Mm-hmm.
So really, if you get that guy turned, he's finished. Well, if you go back and look at the game, he did it the entire series. So Byron Russell didn't make any adjustments, but Jordan just kind of picked him apart.
Yeah, he did.
And because he was able to read a guy's feet and a guy's weight, more importantly. Definitely. And that's something that unless you're really ingrained in it, it's not something that you pick up, which I thought that was pretty cool for him to actually talk about that.
For sure.
Let's talk about this.
Years.
This came into my mind was, of course, Jerry Sloan, Hall of Fame coach, brilliant, tremendous. No disrespect to him, but as a casual fan, I always knew that Jordan torched Byron Russell, like torched him, and for Jordan to say that, like, oh yeah, like he was always like on the tip of his toes guy, good head and shoulder fake, and I could do whatever I wanted. Like, why do you keep putting it like 2 years in a row? Like,
absolutely,
put someone else on him.
Who are you gonna put on him? Hornacek? Howard Isley?
They had 3 guys deep to go.
They didn't have anybody else who could even compete.
Yeah.
Howard Isley would have given him a run.
No question.
Boston, where does he go? Boston College's finest. I don't know. Is that where he went?
I don't even compare.
Give Ostertag a try. He can
just throw one out there. I love the Dennis Rodman episode when he's talking about the defense. Like that amplified Dennis Rodman to me again. He's sitting. Never saw a man wore more pajama pants in my life, by the way. But
didn't even shower. Just went straight home to Carmen Electra. Just showers are
unbelievable. The guy literally he was like, yeah, I studied how my matchup did everything. And then when he started talking about having people shoot from different sides of the
how about the editing job by that? Unbelievable by that whole production crew. He's like, this one, now go this way. Like it was so funny the way they had the way they had portrayed him. But people didn't understand. Like they were talking about a curl cut when him and Michael Jordan. He's like, do you want me to? I can hold him up, but if you want to jump out and switch in that situation, I can. But I can bump. Like you could tell that Jordan respected Rodman's defensive acumen just simply because he was able to, in-game adjustments. I think that's to be honest with you, that's the biggest difference between pros and college kids.
Yes.
Your ability to make in-game adjustments on your own.
Definitely.
Pros can do that. College kids still struggle with it, at least the majority of college kids. And that's something that you hope by the time you're a senior that guys can really get to that point to where they can make adjustments on their own. Coach Brownell's team, when they went to the Sweet 16, they were able to make those adjustments because they were all old guys. Yeah. So there were times where Mark Donnell would switch out, he would switch out and all of the senior guards would just slide over an extra 2 steps because they knew they were going to have to help.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that if you've done your job right coaching and your guards are starting to get older, that's something that's kind of where you can see the fruits of your labor, if you will. I think that's the biggest difference.
Definitely.
Simon, you've talked about that with your coach. Like your boss does a tremendous job with in-game adjustments. And
he's unbelievable at it. I mean, he's one of the best I've been around. I thought, Arch was really good at it, And then getting with Coach Moore now, I mean, it's just 30 years of watching it. The guy sees everything, and you know, your little 30-second timeouts, the course of your conversations, it's kind of cool because I mean, I literally like a couple weeks ago went back and wrote in notes that I take on my stat sheets that I get during them of things that he said in the way like he broke them down and like delivered it to us. Like, what's your thought? What's your thought? What's your thought? What's your thought? Okay, I saw this, boom, 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 boom. And then like I'll run behind him to the huddle and listen to what he says to the team. Because the guy just, it's crazy. It's really crazy. It's where you want to get to one day. But then speaking of adjustments, did you notice the flu/pizza game? Why in the world did they double team off of Michael Jordan? Like, why would you double the ball on an elbow catch in the triangle off of Mike, who's the greatest player in the world, who's literally standing with no one in front of him to just let him dot you like that?
Right.
But that's also, to your point again, T.O., even the progression of the NBA as to where it was back then. I mean, Sloan's a phenomenal coach, but then like player reaction is like, oh, I'm just going to go follow the ball. And that's the league, you know? And it's kind of cool to see how you have to hone your craft in order to teach that. Like you said, that hopefully they get it by senior year. But that was very interesting to me as well.
But in their defense, now I know what you're saying, and I agree with you. You don't leave Michael. But in their defense, Scottie Pippen had Stockton in the post. And the one thing that I noticed, every offensive clip that they showed in 97 and 98 finals, every single time the Bulls had the ball, they were posting up John Stockton.
They did.
Ron Harper was 6'6", Jordan was 6'6", Pippen 6'9". Like,
that's
John Stockton's 6'1", 6'2".
The Doberman.
Doubles be 6'2".
Hey, 6'2", 6'2", baby. You can count on however you want. Shoes on, orthotics, 2 pairs of socks, 6'2", 6'2", however you want to measure it.
Did you guys see Stockton's response last night? They did the Inside Stuff reunion, and they start asking people the random questions. They go, hey, John, you know, what current day player, you know, would you say remind you of yourself? He goes, Giannis Antetokounmpo. That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Simon, thanks so much for jumping on with us. I know 20 minutes goes by fast, man, but we really appreciate it.
That was quick.
Feel free to hang on. Feel free to stick around. We got Kelly Graves coming up next. But thank you so much. I know you're running around between Zoom meetings and whatnot, so appreciate you coming by.
Got a call in a couple minutes here, actually, so I gotta go.
Simon, thanks again, man, and enjoy the rest of your off season.
Thank you, guys. Looking forward to catching up after.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
See you, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Simon. All right, Simon Harris, NC State women's basketball. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. Tio, that was fun, man. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was good to kind of hear from him, kind of how they approach some things at NC State. That's pretty neat.
No question. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to open up the doors. Kelly Graves will be on here in about 5 minutes. Anybody watching the YouTube, you can stay tuned. And we will see you back afterwards for the after show. Tio and I will break down some of Kelly Graves' presentation and get some thoughts from some of the listeners. Tio, we'll see you in a few minutes, man.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much, Gordo.
What's up, everybody? We're going to get started in about 5 minutes or so.
It's actually mandatory that you have to take the Duke background off, Coach Hopkins. I need that off your screen. There we go. I like that better.
Sorry about that. I was meeting with a player that's a big Carolina fan, so I put that on there for him just for fun. So.
There you go. I'm okay with it right now.
Hey, everybody, just FYI, we are live streaming on YouTube today. So I like to always tell people that so they don't say anything incriminating. Coach Graves, what's going on?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can. Thanks so much.
Awesome.
How are you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I'm up here in the mountains of Central Oregon and just kind of can socially distance up here. There's not a whole lot going on.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, we appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us today.
Hey, my pleasure. My pleasure, guys.
Can we give it a couple minutes and then get started right at 12 your time? Is that all right?
You talking to me? You talking to everybody else?
No, I was talking to you, Coach.
Oh yeah, I'm good, man. I'm here.
All right.
Whenever you guys are ready.
Do you want me to kind of ask you some questions, or do you want to just run with it first and then open it up for Q&A?
Run with what? This is all. I got no dog in the pony.
What's that?
We got a lot of young coaches here. We'll just talk. How's that?
That sounds perfect.
Anybody can ask a question.
All right. Have you guys just been doing the typical Zoom stuff with your team or anything unique or?
Yeah, we have. We do one every 2 weeks with the whole team, next year's team. And then on the off week, they do something together, just the players.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. How about you guys?
Well, I'm not coaching. I just run Rising Coaches full time. So we do these twice a day. We bring in different coaches and different people to come speak to our members.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on Zoom. I feel like I'm on Zoom 5-6 hours a day.
Oh my goodness. Well, looks like you're in NFL Central control room back there. My God, look at all the electronic equipment you've got.
It's none of it's real. It's all a facade. It's all the virtual background. So that's the one good thing I've gotten good at the virtual background. So Rising Coaches headquarters here behind me. All right. Well, it's 2:00, Coach. Let's go ahead and get started. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Obviously, I don't think our guest today needs much of an introduction. But we're very fortunate and appreciative to have Oregon women's basketball head coach Haley Graves in the Zoom call with us today. So thanks, Coach, for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure. I appreciate y'all having me on. Is everybody on here college coaches or high school coaches, or you got a mix here?
We've got a mix. So we're a community for coaches of all levels, open to everybody.
Okay. Oh, that's terrific. Well, yeah, first of all, it's an honor to be with you and you guys. Basically, I just do much better in kind of a question and answer format if that works for you. So maybe just jot some questions down and as we go along, and love to answer anything. This is my I think I just completed my 33rd year of college coaching. So I've been at this probably longer than some of you guys have been born. But I love it. I love it. And I got my start. I'll just quick for about 2 minutes tell you, or 3 minutes, tell you my journey, and that might spark some questions. But I played at the University of New Mexico for a guy named Gary Colson, a gentleman that's well into his 80s now, and somebody that I still consider a great friend and a mentor. And we talk at least once a month during the season, even more. It's funny, it's a different era, but there's a lot I can still and do still learn from him. But when I was done there, I stayed on as graduate assistant, worked on my master's degree, and then he was let go. And so I was looking for a job, and my old high school coach was the men's basketball coach at Big Bend Community College in Moses Lake, Washington. So he just asked me if I wanted to go up and help him coach. My salary was $1,250. So My first job paid barely $100 a month. I plowed potato fields in the morning. That's potato country up there. And I plowed potato fields every morning at about 5 o'clock just to make ends meet. I lived in a booster's basement for $100 a month, and then just kind of did odd jobs here, there, and everywhere. Taught some activity courses on campus just to make ends meet. And then about a week before, that was for 1 year. And then the next season, about a week before school started, the women's coach quit. And they had lost 55 straight league games. It wasn't a great program. And, and they didn't really have time to open it up. So they just asked me, well, do you want to do it? And I go, yeah, okay, why not? We played mostly double headers, and the only reason I took it is paid $2,500. I doubled my salary, plus they let me stay on as the men's assistant coach. So, they got me a dorm room, and I was making $37.50. So I was in lap of luxury, didn't have to plow potato fields anymore, and that's kind of where I got my start. And we, a couple years later, won our first championship, and then I left to be an assistant at the University of Portland for a guy named Jim Sollers. And one of my favorite people of all time, a great coach, taught me work-life balance. He had a life outside of coaching, and I thought that made him a better coach. Stayed there for 5 years, and that's when I got my first head job at St. Mary's College in Moraga, California. And it was funny. When they hired me, man, they thought I was a woman the whole time through the entire hiring process. Everything I got from them, and that was back when you just did email and letters. There was no texting or anything like that. And they would always say everything I got said, "Dear Ms. Graves," and I never told them otherwise the whole time. And so I still remember when the AD called me to bring me down for an interview. He calls my phone and says, "Hi, is Kelly Graves there?" And I go, "Yeah, this him." And there was like a long pause. So, but that's, it got me an interview, and then they brought in 3 of us, and I was the third choice. The first person just was using the job as leverage to get a better deal at his school he was at. The second coach was from Florida, and just, in the end, turned it down, didn't want to go cross country. So I won by default. So it just goes to show you. And 5 years later was the only one still in coaching. So it just goes to show you, use any advantage that you can, and you can't get discouraged that, you weren't their top pick. I'd already been turned down for 2 head jobs earlier that spring, but I got St. Mary's 3 years later. We'd won a championship, and that's when I learned a family lesson. My wife, we had 2 young boys, and then a third that was about to be born. And it was pretty expensive and busy, and we didn't know anybody in California really. And she gave me the old, honey, if you love me, we got to move. And there's really only one answer to that. So that's when the Gonzaga job opened up, and we had family up there in Spokane. And I took that job, was there 14 years as a head coach, and built one of the nation's, in fact, probably the best mid-major, so-called mid-major program in the history of NCAA Division I. And then it was my turn after 14 years to turn the tables on Mary. And just when the Oregon job opened up, it was really the only place I would have ever left Gonzaga for. Had a couple opportunities and turned them down. And that's when I said, honey, if you love me, let's go to Oregon. And there you go. So I've been here 6 years, and I think we've built something pretty special here. But really, I've kind of used the same strategy, the same template everywhere I've been. Every program that I walked into was struggling, and wins and losses, and oftentimes in just culture and player attitudes and all that kind of stuff. And I've just tried to use the same template all the way through. So there you go. That's 33 years in about, probably 5 boring minutes for everybody. So hopefully it spurred some questions, and maybe we can just go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you guys have questions, feel free to raise your hand or type in your name in the chat room, and we'll call on you. Coach, I'll get you started. Can you talk about, your philosophy and player eval. Obviously you've produced tremendous talent. So what are some things that you're looking for in the evaluation process and also the development?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I look at 5 things really when we recruit. Number one, I look for athletic ability. So, it's an athletic game. And I'm not saying you have to be, super quick and jump real high. I mean, Sabrina Ionescu to me is a great athlete. However, she doesn't jump that high. She's not super fast and she's not the quickest kid. But what she is she's strong. She's got great body control, good hand-eye coordination. Those kind of things I consider athleticism. It's all encompassing. So number one, athletic ability. Number two is skill set. I coach a skilled game. We're the most efficient offense in the country, have been now for a couple of years. Our offensive efficiency this year was 123.5 points per 100 possessions. So to just put that in context, second best in NCAA women's basketball was the University of South Dakota. They were at 112. We were at 123.5. Gonzaga was the best men's Division I program this year at 118. And the Dallas Mavericks were the best NBA team at about 114. So we're very efficient offensively. That's the kind of game I like to play. Therefore, skill set is important to me. And so that's what we look for. Third is basketball IQ. Again, we play, I consider us a cerebral basketball team. We take care of the ball. We make good decisions. We play, I think, the right way. And if you don't have a good basketball IQ and don't understand the game, then you're going to have a hard time playing for us. And you'd be shocked at how many kids in fact, I'll tell you, here's a good example. About 7-8 years ago, this is right after I'd had Courtney Vandersloot for 4 years at Gonzaga. So, she's only the best point guard in the world right now. And I was looking to kind of replace her. And I'm in a gym watching a kid that was kind of on our maybe, maybe not list. 3 seconds to go in the game. Her team's ball under their own basket. Okay, down 1. Her team was down 1 with the ball under their own basket. The ball comes into her. She takes a dribble, then takes another dribble, doesn't really even look to score, then makes a pass, and on the pass, horn goes off. So I'm looking at that and trying to evaluate. Now, if she was a no-brainer who just had a mind fart, then okay, I would be okay with that. But this is somebody I was still trying to figure out, should I, shouldn't I? And I saw that in 2 ways. Number one, time and score, she didn't understand it. And as a point guard late in the game, you don't understand the situation. I mean, look at The Last Dance. What do you think MJ would have said to, BJ Armstrong or Steve Kerr if something like that happened? Or the second option was she didn't want to take the shot to win the game. And I just thought either of those were bad options. And so I passed. So basketball IQ is important. The fourth one is upside or potential. That's coming from my days at St. Mary's and then later at Gonzaga. At Gonzaga, we were always a candidate, go to the second weekend of the tournament, but we weren't getting top 25 kids. So we had to get those players that projected, that had an opportunity and we felt could improve. And then the fifth thing we look for is character, championship character. And I list it fifth because that's kind of the last thing you find out about somebody. The others you can kind of see when you're watching them, but once you get to know them, then you can kind of tell whether they have championship character or not. And we're in a position now, especially where we can be, a lot more selective. And if they don't fit that criteria, somebody who puts winning ahead of anything. In fact, our recruiting class, we have 5 McDonald's All-Americans coming in. All 5 of them won state championships. That's important to me. They know how to win. They know what it takes. They know they have to sacrifice and, lead and do all these other things. So, how do they treat their coaches? How do they treat teammates? How do they treat opponents, opposing coaches, all that stuff, man. I'm always watching. I watch kids on the bench. And if they've got bad body language, that's a red flag. If they're not looking their coaches in the eye, that's a red flag. There's a picture of Michael Jordan kneeling, looking at Dean Smith that's kind of making the rounds on social media. And you could see that, here's the best player in the world looking his coach eye to eye, and taking instruction. And that's important to me. So I'm sorry about that. That was long. It's so athletic ability, skill set, basketball IQ, upside, and then championship character. Those are our 5 things.
Thanks, Coach. All right, let's open it up for questions. Make sure you guys introduce yourself real quick before you ask.
Please. Thank you.
Terrence, go ahead.
Coach, this is Garrett Grimsley here from Illinois men's program. First of all, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, awesome. My pleasure. Okay,
Garrett,
I don't hear. Oh, go ahead.
I think we lost Garrett. Garrett, we're going to come back to you, buddy. I don't know if you got a bad connection or not. Terrence Oglesby.
Make sure you unmute yourself as well whenever you get a chance.
Yep. So, Coach, sorry.
Come on, Terrence, man, you're giving us bald guys a bad name, bro. Go.
Well, I got to get unmuted. Sorry, Coach. We were talking a little bit, and you brought up The Last Dance. So I wanted to ask you a question, and you've had some extremely talented players. When it comes to addressing them and when it comes to holding your team at a certain level of accountability, how are you able to coach, for example, Vandersloot or, for example, Sabrina this year, and you kind of got to give them enough room to do what they do, but at the same time, not keep everybody else happy, because that's not the right way of saying it, but to keep everybody else accountable and to kind of grow that dynamic within your team throughout the course of the season, because everybody knows early November, everybody's getting along great. But as soon as you get into January and February, things start to get a little bit more testy. And I apologize. I'm getting unmuted. I apologize. That's my fault. But
no worries.
I'll let you take it away. And I loved your points about recruiting. Good stuff.
Well, hey, Terrence, thanks for the question. First of all, I wish everybody had an opportunity to coach someone like Sabrina. I think it would renew all the passion that you have about coaching. She was a coach's dream in every which way. However, I treated her differently than I treated all the other players. I treat every player differently. And I think good coaches do that because everybody's different. You have to. So there were often times this year when I would yell at Sabrina because I was mad at Ruthie, because I knew, or maybe not Ruthie, because I could get on her for somebody else. But we had some players, and you guys all have them, that are a little bit more temperamental. And if you get on them, they take it personally or whatever, and you've got some issues. So, Sabrina understands that. And I was pretty hard on her at times. But so I think any coach, a good coach, treats everybody differently because everybody is different. However, the point you made, Terrence, you hold them all to the same standards. So I look at those two things differently. Absolutely. And I might hold some even to a higher standard like Sabrina. I remember going in and talking to her and Ruthie first day of practice this season. I said, you three, us three, me and you two, we're the only three that can't have a bad practice all year long. Because I ask so much of them. So, and I think the main thing with those elite kind of players is to be there for them. Sabrina needed, she needed help. You go through your regular practice and then she's going to stay another hour, or she's going to come in later for shooting. And so you have to take that on as a coach. If I can't do it, my staff has to. And I give them a ton of credit, man. They were awesome with Sabrina. Game days, if we had a 2:00 tip, she's in the gym at 7 a.m. on game day. And so, we had to have people there, to rebound for her. So it's a blessing. It can be a curse, but it made me a better coach, Terrence, because guess what? I had to bring it every day in practice because I knew she was going to, and I couldn't fake it. I had to be prepared and I had to be on each and every day. So she made me in these 4 years a better coach. Same with Courtney, same with Satu, Ruthie, all these players that I was blessed to have this year. By the way, those are 3 players, man, that I lost in the top 8. So God dang, I'm gonna have to do some coaching next year.
I was about to say, yeah, you have all those players go in the draft, man. That says something about the things you're doing right. But Big time stuff, Coach. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, Mendel, go ahead, buddy.
That's great. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it greatly.
My pleasure.
My name is Mendel out of Minneapolis with the Tim Moves and Links Academy. One word that gets thrown around a lot is culture, right? We hear that all the time in coaching. What is culture to you? How do you guys define that?
The way we do things, you know, our mode of operation, the way we handle ourselves. What I'm going to do is, in fact, I've got, you're not going to be able to see it, but right here, these are our core values. Okay. And I'm going to send these. In fact, here's my phone. Here's my cell phone. If you guys text me, you can text me anytime if you ever have questions, you know, and I'll get back to all of you today. I'll send you these two sheets. One is our core values and our standards of behavior. That's all on one. Our core values are this: passion, unity, integrity, thankfulness, and servanthood. Those are the 5 things. It's kind of funny. You hear those, and those aren't the typical words you might hear surrounding a basketball program. You know, normally it's toughness and discipline and hard work. No, for us, it's thankfulness. It's servanthood. It's, you know, integrity, doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Passion, playing with passion, and then unity, you know, being one. So, and then we have what we call our standards of behavior. This is how, we don't have a rule book. Okay. When I was at Gonzaga for all those years and all my other jobs, I had 3 rules. Number 1, be on time. Number 2, don't do anything to embarrass yourself, the program, or the university. And number 3, no drama. So, you know, at a good Catholic school, you can be vague like that. You get to a state school like I am now, and they said, no, Graves, that doesn't cut it. You gotta bring a little bit more. So we have a rule book I don't really pay much attention to. Don't tell my bosses. But what we've chosen to do is put it in a positive term. We have 10 standards of behavior. This is who we will be. We're going to be positive. You know, we're going to respect each other. We're going to play for each other. Selfless, you know, and on and on. Okay. And then on the back side is I have what I call the components of our championship program. I wrote this, you guys, in 1989 before I landed my first head job. And it's what I've lived by as a coach. And it goes along with your question, Mendel, about, you know, who we are, you know, what is our culture? And so I'm going to send you these 2 sheets if you guys text me. Here's my cell phone number.
Coach, we were streaming on YouTube as well. So do you want me to type your number in the chat, or do you want to, I just didn't want you to put it out on the entire internet.
Yeah, type it in the chat, would you? Okay.
You might have 1,000 phone calls. So
that's okay. Hey, it's okay. Just don't call me for a job. You know what I mean? But anytime you have questions, and then call me. That's the best way. I'm not much of a texter, but I will text you these two sheets. And I think that'll answer your question, Mendel. But your culture is who you are, what you believe in, how you do things every day. And I think it's critical you set that. After my 2nd year at Oregon, I had cycled through the entire team. So my 3rd year, the year Sabrina came in as a freshman, we had a clean slate. We didn't have any holdovers. But when I first got to Oregon, I had to let a young lady go. She averaged 22 a game in the Pac-12, leading scorer in the Pac-12. There was no way I was going to coach that kid. No way. She didn't even make it to the first game. She transferred at break, went to another Power 5 school in the SEC, and guess what? She didn't make it to their first game the next year either. And, you know, I remember she walked out of practice one day. Where are you going? I don't like this drill, coach. Wait, what do you mean you don't like this drill? So that was, you know, and it went down from there. So sometimes you just got to make changes for the betterment of the group. All right. Thank you. Good question. I'll try and limit the answers.
Thanks, Coach.
Not be so long-winded.
Oh, you're doing great. Let's go to Daria. Go ahead, Daria. Go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
I can hear. Hi, Coach Grace. I'm Daria Shadova. I'm an assistant coach at Montreat College. And I have a question for you. Through your career path, what would be one thing you wish you would never do as a young coach or as a rising coach? and what's the thing you wish you would do if you're looking back on your career path?
Well, I liked my journey because being at Big Bend Community College, I had no assistant coach. I had to sweep the floor before games, had to pull out the baskets, I had to wash the uniforms after the game, and all that kind of stuff for 3 years. And it really made me appreciate what I have now. I mean, I'm at the University of Oregon, and it's really easy to be entitled with the amount of gear and everything else that we get. So I like the fact that I started where I did, because now I appreciate that. I don't take managers for granted. I remember the first day at Oregon, we had like 5 managers. Okay. And it's okay, let's get some water. And all of a sudden I got 5 managers running out with 3 cups in each of their hands, giving water to the players. And I go, whoa, 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 whoa. What are you guys doing? Well, we're giving them their water. I said, if they're thirsty, they can go get their own out of the jug. Are you kidding me? What are we, who are we trying to, we got to toughen up here a little bit. So yes, I like that part of my journey. If I was to do it all over again, I would focus a lot less on winning and losing, and just focus on building the relationships with the players. I think that is the most important part of coaching. And the sooner you figure that out, the sooner you're going to be a better coach and more successful coach. If kids know that you love them and you care about them, not just for how many points they can get you in a game, but because you love them for who they are, the more successful you'll be. So if that's what I would tell my young self: focus less on the W's and more on the individuals. And I've gotten better and better and better at that, like we all do. So
thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Right before the dog started barking.
Hey, Coach.
Garrett, are you good? Do you want to try it again?
Let's go, buddy.
Yeah, let's try it again. Let's see if this works. Coach, first of all, thank you for speaking with us this afternoon. My name is Garrett Grimsley. I just finished up my 4 years at Illinois State as a manager. One of the things you talked about that you learned at your time at the University of Portland was work-life balance. Could you just talk a little bit more about that and how you treat that now that you're a head coach at a Power 5 school? I think everybody's perspective on that might have changed during this quarantine time, and having to take a step back and reflect. Appreciate it.
Well, maybe this is God's time out, right? He took a 20, or she. Hey, I can go either way there, but took a 20 for all of us. I think maybe we all need to get grounded and remember what's really important, and that starts with family and our health. So it has been good. There have been some positives out of this thing. For me, though, again, if you're too much into your coaching, I just don't know if you're going to be as successful or as happy. I think it's important to have work-life balance. If you don't have a family, then you've got good friends, or your parents, or whatever. If you have kids and you're married like I am, then I've always felt I can be a better coach when I'm a better father and husband. So I have a couple of I have a mission statement, a personal mission statement, not a professional one, a personal one. I've got a professional one too, and it's in a document form that I'm going to send you guys. But my personal one is: no success can compensate for failure in the home. No success can compensate for failure in the home. So if I'm not taking care of business at home and building those relationships, then I just, my life is not going to be as fulfilling, whether I go 35-0 or not. They've got to be a part of it. And I'm blessed. I have 3 boys that are really into hoop, and a wife that played basketball way back when. And so they're into it. They love what I do. My oldest son works for the Dallas Mavericks in player personnel. My middle son is still going to college, and he's helping coach a community college women's basketball team. And my youngest son plays basketball at Gonzaga. So, we're a basketball family. And I think that, to me, that's heartwarming, because that means I think they enjoyed their childhoods. They enjoyed being part of, dad and what dad did. So you got to have balance, you guys. Just keep it Keep it a little of both. If you start getting too much of one and not enough of the other, you're in trouble. Thank you, Garrett.
Thank you, Coach. That was great.
Okay, we got lots of hands up, so bear with me.
Okay. I'll make it quicker.
No. I wasn't talking to you, Coach. I was just saying we're going to do our best to get to everybody. Jimmy, go ahead.
Coach Jimmy Oakman from Brooklyn and Long Island Nets. Quick question about developing your staff, kind of how you go about the process of either hiring them, and two parts to that. How would you view the experience of either an NBA or WNBA head coach or assistant in bringing them on your staff where they're not in the college game?
Oh, I'm okay with that. You know, at this point in my career, I'm doing basically what I've done for the last 20 years in terms of philosophy, style, offense, defense. I don't need a ton of help in that regard, like new ideas. If I wasn't if I was struggling a little bit in what we've been running, then I would adjust and look for somebody who can help me. So basically, I'm looking for a staff that, again, same thing, can develop great relationships with our players. They're willing to work. Mark Campbell and Xavi Lopez, they put in so much time with Sabrina and Ruthie and their development, just off time. And that's critical. Just finding somebody that really wants to work. They have coaching expertise as well. They're solid coaches. There's no question about it. They're very loyal. They're loyal to the program. I trust them when they're on the road. I don't have to feel like, oh my gosh, are they doing anything they're not supposed to right now? I think that's critical. Yes, I would hire from any level and have, my lead assistant right now, who's been with me 18 years. She started at Gonzaga and worked for free for 2 years. And at the same time, Lisa Fortier came in same year, worked for free for 2 years, just willing to do anything. Lisa's now the head coach at Gonzaga, and then Jody's working with me. So, they came from Division III and Division II. They were young assistants, but I could tell, man, they wanted to work hard and they were into it. And so, hey, and then they had 2 years to prove themselves. And I had a couple of my assistants moved on. One is an assistant, one is a head coach, and the jobs opened up. So, basketball's basketball, man. I don't care where you're coaching. Some of the best coaches are at Division III. A lot of them are in high school, junior high. You kidding? I can go out and recruit what I want to coach. How about that high school coach that has 3'6" kids 1 year, and then the tallest next year's 5'8"? What the hell are they going to do? They got to actually know how to coach and get through to kids and be creative. And, if I lose an All-American, I can go recruit another one.
Jessica.
All right. Hi, Coach. First off, I just want to echo what everybody else has said and say thank you for taking the time to meet with us. Really appreciate it. I'm Jessica Thowins, GA at Eastern Washington, wrapping up my GA, thank God.
Yeah. I love Coach Schuler.
Yep.
She's one of my favorites.
She's a good one. She's a good one. So we obviously have all heard and read a lot about winning in the locker room. And I was just kind of curious if you can kind of speak on just your thoughts of that and how powerful that is to your success.
Critical. If they're not a cohesive group in the locker room, you're going to struggle on the court. I don't care how talented you are. However, I am going to say this, and I'm not a walking John Gordon book, I'm not giving them positive feedback every day. I'm not doing a quote of the day. I think that's fine. That's just, I recruit ballers who just want to ball, and if I have to get on them from time to time, I do it. If I tell them, I try to tell them as often as I can, I love them, but it comes down to the unity that they have with one another. And so a great quote you can use among your coaching staff, and you can obviously tell it with players, is, you don't have to like each other, but you got to love each other. I don't always like my brother and sister, right? Because they piss me off sometimes, but I still love them because they're family. And so I think, the more you can foster that environment, the better it is. And I think that was, you know, and going through hard times. We don't have a lot of meetings. We don't talk things out. I think one of the advantages of me being a male coach, and with all due respect, Jessica, I think some of the other female coaches on here will know what I'm talking about. I've coached men's as well. And one of the differences is, you know, when guys, I remember when I was playing, I literally would come to blows. I would square up with my teammates and we would go at it. And as soon as practice was over, we'd put our arms around each other. Hey, let's go have dinner. It's over and forgotten. And I think sometimes with female players, you know, there can be some animosity, some hurt feelings, and then they start grabbing allies. Are you on my side or her side? And one of the things that we do when I see this happen, and listen, these guys compete. Satu and Sabrina competed. That's why they're first and second picks in the draft. Those kids want to win. And so if they were on separate teams, you know, they would argue from time to time. I loved it. It was healthy. And I would make them, if I saw it had gone maybe too far, I'd bring them together and say, okay, let's talk it out right now. Because as soon as this is over, I don't want to hear any more about it. And so I think that kind of stuff on the court helps in the locker room. I think, I don't know if that helps. I don't have all the answers there. I am not a rah-rah. We don't do a lot of lessons and writing our feelings down. We just don't do that stuff. You know, I'm sure it has a place. It's just not my style. But I know others in my league that do it, and they have great chemistry. So
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
yeah. Good luck. Tell everybody up there in Eastern Washington hi.
I definitely will.
Okay, let's go to Paul. Paul, you there?
Coach. Yep, I'm here. Sorry. Hey, Coach. Like everybody else said, thanks for being here. Paul Schmora, Springfield, Mass, Springfield Central High School. Just a question back on your player evals. You mentioned upside and potential. Just some things you look for that kind of give you an idea that they have it and they're able to develop over the 4 years that you have them with while you're out recruiting. Thanks.
Okay. And did you say IQ or upside and potential or both?
Just the upside and potential part.
Upside and potential. Well, I think part of that is, you know, let's say you've got a 6'5" player. You know, she's really athletic, you know, can move well, has pretty good hands. I've always thought the two things that you got to find in a post, hands and heart. You know, if they don't want, you know, if they're not tough, they don't want any kind of contact, you're in trouble. If they don't have good hands, you're in trouble. So hands and heart with post players. So as you're watching them, they move pretty well. Maybe they can't make a layup, but that's okay. You know, you can teach them how to make a layup. You can execute offensively good enough to get them in a position where they can catch and score, but you can't get them to always move. So, you know, I look at athleticism a lot when it comes to the big kids. I think with the guards, you know, let's say a really great team. All right, great high school, Springfield High School, man, home of the Hall of Fame, right? My good buddy John Stockton resides there. Okay, you've got a great team, and you've got a fourth option on your team that really understands team. Okay, she's not the leading scorer or rebound or anything else, but you can tell that kid knows how to play. So put her in project her in a bigger role, going, hey, you know what? She can shoot it. She can handle it. She can pass it. She's got a good understanding of the game. She's just playing with a bunch of other really good players. Hey, I think she's going to be a good player in college. Or you look at their physical maturity, you know, look at the size of their feet. If they got size 13 feet and they're 5'11", chances are they might grow a little bit, right? If they're skinny as can be, you know, maybe just project them a little later with some muscle. So I think that it's not an exact science, but it's just kind of a gut feeling, and it's trial and error. I've had some that haven't worked out, and I've had some that have worked out.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Ruthie Hebert, the kid that's going to the sky, our you know, just our all first team All-American for us this year. Hey, we were so smart with her. She's from Fairbanks, Alaska. Raw. Even the Division II coach up there said, what do you guys see in Ruthie? And at the time, quite frankly, we didn't know. we actually offered her to redshirt as a freshman. She ended up scoring 16 and 9 as a freshman, as first team all Pac-12. You know, thank God she said, no, coach, I'm going to take my chances and play. So sometimes you just get lucky, and sometimes you still didn't even have it right.
All right, let's go to Ben. Go ahead, Ben.
Hey, Coach. Ben Tanoff. Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate everything you have to say. We talked about culture a little bit ago, and I kind of want to look at this from a different angle. But can you talk about not what you think the right culture or wrong culture is, but when you get somewhere new, you start the rebuilding process like you have done so many times in your career, how do you implement that new culture without, you know, headbutting the people that are already there? Because I can imagine you come into a new place, even if it's a losing program, there's going to be people who don't want to change how things are done, right? Change is scary. You know, some people don't want, you know, how do you work with them and help them understand, you know, this is a new direction we need to go in?
Ben, that's a great question. And I don't know if I have the complete answer to it. I can just do what I've done in all the different places that I've been. First of all, is you communicate with them. You talk with them. When I first got to Oregon, I had a mural done in the locker room, something that they saw every day. It was a beautiful mountainscape of Mount Hood, which is outside of Portland, snow-capped and the whole bit. And there were a couple little, what would you call it, peaks on it. And I put on one peak, Pac-12 above it, Pac-12 championship. I put above the next one, Final Four. I put above the very top of the mountain, national champion. And then I put there was a nice landscape and a river that kind of ran up to the mountain. And the quote we put on that was, a vision so powerful, it has to become a reality. And then I put, enjoy the journey. That was, so they saw that every day when they came into the locker room. I just wanted them to visualize, this is what we're about. This is what we want to do. This is, you know, so when I communicate with them, you know, and you're setting your culture and all that stuff, it's like, are they aligning with your vision, you know? And you just communicate, this is what we want. This is how we've got to then act each and every day so that we're capable and have an opportunity to do that. And it's different, man, everywhere you go. My St. Mary, how's this? My St. Mary's job, you guys, I just wanted it. The team had banded together, gone into the AD and said, we go or the coach goes. That's what I was taking over. You know who was on that team that I took over? J.R. Payne, who's now the head coach at University of Colorado. So she played for me for 2 years and coached with me for 5. That was her first job at Gonzaga. Tracy Morris, who's now Tracy Sanders. Okay, she's the head coach, Division I, Southern Utah University. Okay, they were on that team, man. 2 Division I coaches. And but you know, so I handled that differently than I did ones that just had lack of talent. Good kids, just not much talent. So every situation's a little bit different. I had to have fun with the group in St. Mary's and just kind of, you know, build that strong relationship. The other places I just had to, hey, this is how we're going to try and do it. We, you know, you're not good enough. We're going to have to move on, kind of thing. So it's all different. You got to play both sides. You got to appease them to some degree, but you got to lay down the law over here. The middle area is where you're going to have issues. So you got to love them and communicate with them. And that will bridge that divide. And if it still doesn't work, bye. You got to go, man.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. Can you repeat what you said is on that mural, a vision so powerful?
Yeah, a vision so powerful. It's like my favorite quote. A vision so powerful, it has to become a reality. And because I had the vision, I know what I wanted to do, but if they don't buy in or they don't have the same vision you do, if they're on a different page, then it's just not going to work. But if you really, all of you have that powerful vision together, yes, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to go about our daily interactions as if we're champions, you know, it's worked for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
Although we didn't get a chance to win it this year. I thought we had a great shot. I thought this was our year.
Matt, go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Coach. Matt Dickman with the Sioux Falls Skyforce. Thanks so much for being here. You mentioned early about the kid you couldn't coach. What are some signs in the recruiting process that you use to maybe find those people before you sign them? You know, depending on the level of where you are, sometimes, you know, you might have to take that person or think that you might have to take that person. But we all know that if we can't even coach our best player, then we're going to be in a setting ourselves up for failure.
Yeah, well, it's not always easy. So I'm not here to say I'm getting nothing but Girl Scouts. You know, from time to time, you take those. You know, you have to get those players that you know, may not have. Not that they're bad kids. They haven't been asked to do certain things and haven't maybe led the way you want. But we really vet our recruits during the recruiting process. So I'm calling not only their coach. Most high school coaches are going to say great things about their own players. I like to talk to opposing coaches. How is she to play against? Okay. You know, is she good to her coaches? Is she good to her teammates? You know, they're going to maybe tell you the little truth. Talk to the club coaches. You watch them. You know, there's a vetting process. You don't always know, but you know, I think it's okay from time to time to take a player that, you know, might have maybe not the most desirable character. If you have too many of them, they run your team. But if you have one or two and you've got a really strong culture and strong leadership, they will usually conform to that. The situation I walked into just wasn't like that. So we tried. Hey, 22 points a game, man. I'm trying the best I can. It just wasn't going to work in the end. But that's just me, you guys. Everybody's in a different place. I get it. Some of them, they're in your high school. You don't have a choice. You know, and I admire you. So I think the best coaching is going on in our high schools right now.
All right. Well, with that said, let's go to another high school coach, Brandon Baier. Go ahead.
Coach Graves, thanks again for doing this. I really appreciate it. Brandon Baier, freshman boys basketball coach at Palo Alto High School. Just kind of curious to get your thoughts on how do you go about cultivating a relationship between your program and the men's program right now, obviously with you and Dana Altman, and then maybe going back to Gonzaga, your time at Gonzaga with Mark Few. How important is that relationship? And then how do you go about cultivating it so that your programs are working together and it's, you know, mutually beneficial for both of your programs?
Well, I've been blessed. You know, you just mentioned two Hall of Fame coaches, Dana Altman, Mark Few. So for the last 20 years, that's who I've had a chance to work alongside. I think you just, you know, again, communicate with them, talk to them, you know, just let them know you're in it together. I think you show that you support them. I don't understand the petty fighting sometimes between men's and women's staffs. I don't get that. You know, sometimes we don't agree on scheduling practice times and stuff, but I think if you just communicate, you have a good argument and you just say, hey, listen, we're here to work together. I've had to have my SWA, my boss, the AD, I've had to have them step in from time to time over the years, but on anything major. I think you just, you know, just try to work together and again, communication, just sit down, talk to people, man, get to know them. Yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
And if they're still an asshole, just call them such, you know, just say, hey, quit being such a, you know what? And that's okay too. That's communicating.
Andy.
Hey, Coach, thanks so much for being on here. Andy Farrell, University of Dayton men's basketball. Wanted to get your thoughts with all the attention that you guys had this year from doing well, both as a team and then some individual performances. How were you able to eliminate the noise, eliminate the distractions, keep the main thing, or use those, talk about the elephant in the room while keeping the main thing?
Well, great question. By the way, congratulations. Our true shooting percentage, so our effective shooting percentage this year was 58.3. The only team that was better than us this year was Dayton men's basketball, man.
Yeah, when you were talking about some of those efficiency numbers, I was going to bring some up to you in a private conversation later, just so we can talk about some efficiencies, because you guys were fun to watch.
Well, so were you. You guys were damn near 60, or maybe a little bit more than 60, which is unheard of, off the charts. So congratulations. Well, yeah, we weren't like you. You guys kind of flew under the radar. I saw your run during the Maui tournament, and that kind of got you guys out there and going. We had the number one expectation right off the bat. I think our kids handled it pretty well. I talked to you guys about the mountain skate, and that's not something we talk about. It's a visual there, but it's not something we talk about each and every day. Our goal was not to win the national championship. We never talked about winning it. Our goal each and every day was to just get better, have a great practice. And that came from Sabrina. I've kind of changed my outlook on goal setting with Sabrina and Ruthie in that group. They preferred not to talk big picture and more about, hey, let's get better today. Let's have a great practice today. And I liked it. Quite frankly, I think I've changed my tune on how we go about goals. So that helped. And then I think in women's basketball, it's a lot about the process. I think if you lose sight or just put that goal out there and that's what you try to attain. I mean, we didn't get a chance to win the national championship this year. Does that make it a disappointing year? Sure, we were disappointed, but we still had a great year, just a great year. And it was meaningful and rich and fulfilling. So, but Sabrina, man, that kid, shoot, she could handle it. I mean, just look at her. She put it out there last year at the after the Final Four. No, I want to come back, unfinished business. She put it out there and she backed it up. So, and when these guys would, she reads replies and stuff on her social media. And when they'd say, get back in the kitchen and make me a sandwich or whatever, man, she'd call them on it. She was unafraid, and that kid would back it up. So when you have somebody like her, that's pretty good leader in that regard.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, let's go to Jonathan.
Hey, Coach. Jonathan Finkel here. So you guys have obviously seen the rise of your program in the past few years to be an elite program. There's tons of elite programs out there. What do you guys do to separate yourselves from the best of the best?
Well, we obviously need to keep recruiting good talent. It's not coaching, not winning. You might be the greatest coach in the world. I have better players. I'm going to beat you. So, most of the time anyway, not always, but most of the time. I think two of the areas that we really focus on, and we just talked about it with Andy. I want to be the best shooting team in the country. Okay. That's our goal. So we led the nation this year at 50.9% from the field. 3-point percentage, we were 39.5, which is actually down 2 percentage points from last year when we led the nation, but 39.5 from the three. And that was third best in the country. And then we're always really good free throw shooting team. But we focus on shooting a lot. So we want to be a great shooting team. And I tell people there's four reasons why we shoot the ball so well. And this has happened all along. This isn't just this group of people. I've always had among the best shooting teams in the country. Number one, we recruit kids that can shoot. And that doesn't mean they all have to be dead eyes, but they have to have an aptitude or decent form or, whatever, even your big kids, regardless of position. We recruit kids that can shoot the ball. Secondly, we shoot a lot in practice. And you guys, I see a lot of college practices. I see a ton of high school practices. I'm a learner. A lifelong learner here. When I'm in town to go recruit a kid, I'll call the local college and say, hey, do you mind if I stop by practice? And so I've seen hundreds and hundreds of practices all over the country. People don't shoot enough in practice. Jonathan, they just don't shoot enough time. You got to spend more time. We spend at least 30 minutes every day just shooting. Game shots at game spots. We also do a lot of just competitive shooting, whether it's timed, competition, I'm still old school. I think there's a place for just spot up shooting, at different spots, but make sure that you're competing in some way, whether it's against the time or another teammate. So we shoot a lot in practice. Number 3, we execute well and get good shots. And then 4th, we really understand, I think this is the best part of our game, we understand who should be shooting. It's our shot. It's not your shot or my shot. And we have a good our shot mentality, and that's part of our culture. So we want to be the best shooting team in the country, and I feel that we are, okay? And the numbers back it up. Secondly, we want to be the best passing team. That's a little selfish, man. Usually just one skill, one stat is good enough. We want to be the best passing team. So this year we were actually 3rd in we were 1st in the last 2 years in assist to turnover ratio, okay? At about this year we were 1.91 assist to turnover. Okay. Last year it was 1.99. So it's something we focus on, passing and catching each and every day. We do peer pressure drills, and I don't have time to show you those, but they're just any fast break drill, okay, that you can think of, that you guys already do. We do too. We do half court drills. We do them after stretching every day. We put a number on it. They have to make that many shots in a row at full speed, talking, crisp passes to go on before we start practice. So I feel we're the best passing and catching team in the country. We focus on that. Women's basketball, Division I, 23% of all possessions end in turnover, damn near a quarter of all possessions. Number 1 reason, passing and catching. Men's basketball, it's about 18% of possessions end in turnover. And the number 1 reason is dribbling. They dribble in and out of trouble sometimes. So passing and catching is important in women's basketball. Therefore, we focus on it. So you are what you practice. So I would recommend everybody shoot more. I don't care what kind of play you're running. If you got nobody who can make that basket, then you're screwed anyway.
Brant.
Coach Brant Daniels, head men's basketball coach at Holy Family College and NAI School in Wisconsin. Thanks for hopping on. Like everyone else, I've had a little bit more time to read here than normally I would, and I just finished a book by Frosty Westerling called Make the Big Time Where You Are.
Yeah.
Just curious about how you attacked that at Big Ben, and even when you got to St. Mary's and Gonzaga, to the differences in, now that you are at the big time, how you go about it there.
Well, I don't care where you're at. You should always be humble. You should always want to learn. You should always treat people right, treat them with respect. I think you can make every place big time, because isn't it all relative? Yep. If you're at Big Bend, you're recruiting against the Spokane Community College or Yakima Valley College or whatever. You can make it appear big time. For me, it's just always been about trying to make those great relationships with people. But Brant, dude, man, you've been on a lot of these Zoom calls, right? So have I. Yeah. And I've been a listener, a lot of them. There's going to be the best coaching we've ever seen next year. We're all better. We've all had a chance to kind of look back and kind of reevaluate, reassess where we're at and what we're doing. And
yeah.
And I think this is great. Brent, I don't know if I had answered your question. Was there a part B or something that I didn't quite get into?
Just, now that you're at Oregon and it's definitely looked at as the big time and one of the premier programs, is there a way that you keep specifically maybe your staff and players motivated differently than you might have to, as opposed to when you're trying to become the big time?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we just kind of stay in the moment, try to get better each day. No, not really. I don't think those people that know me, I don't think they think I've changed from my Big Bend days. I have less hair. I've got a bigger belly. I don't hear quite as well. I'm definitely uglier. My eyesight's not as good, but to the core, I think I'm the same person. And I think that time at Big Bend really helped, man. It put all things in perspective. Plus, my wife keeps me honest. I got a big head. She'll let me know. And it's like golf, right? As soon as you think you've got it figured out, right? It kicks your butt. And same thing in basketball. We just got to keep getting better, all of us, at what we're doing. But no, I don't think I'm any different, big guy.
Thank you.
And I hope so.
Coach, we've had you about an hour. You got time for one or two more, or how's your time?
Yeah, do we have anywhere to go?
Well, I don't know. You tell
I
me.
guess if I'm not that good, they can just click off. I don't know. I'm
All
all
right,
right. I got
okay,
nothing
good.
going.
Well, we appreciate it. All right, let's go back to Terrence has another question. Terrence, go ahead and unmute yourself first.
Bro, seriously, that's twice. See, now, if I was recruiting you, Terrence, and I'm thinking the basketball IQ, I'm going, bro, what?
No, I was going to ask you, and everywhere you've gone, you've stayed for an extended period of time. And then you go back and you talk about a girl that's averaging 22 points a game and you let her hit the road. I feel like a lot of young coaches who become head coaches, they will focus on the present and the immediate as opposed to the process and being more process driven. By you letting her go and kind of creating something for the long term, how do you, I just kind of want you to emphasize that a little bit, because I've heard so many times a coach saying, well, he acts like this so-and-so, but he's going to get me 20 a game. I just feel like that's a pretty significant thing when it comes to building longevity. And I realize there's some high school coaches in here, so they're not dealing with the same thing, but this is more for the college coaches, if you will.
Well, first of all, that gets passed down to the next group of players. You know, they start to understand without you telling them, hey, coach means business. You know, we're supposed to do this the right way. And if not, you know, then there are consequences. So I don't need to retell that story all the time because they know it and that gets passed down. I think keep reinforcing all the positives. Yeah, I don't know.
I probably left that one a little too open-ended. What I mean is, at every stop, you spend 14 years at Gonzaga, and everything like that. Just kind of how you would kind of forego the present, if you will, kind of when you're in your context of building, and you've covered it a little bit, but I just kind of wanted you to elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what you're getting at. I'm not that bright, you know, just like my teams, we keep it real simple. You know, we averaged 86 points a game this year, Terrence, number one in the nation. You know what we were in pace of play? This is the anomaly stat of the year. Number one scoring team in the nation. You know, most people see that and they go, oh, I bet they just roll the balls out and play. You know, run and gun. We were 251st in pace of play, possessions per game.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it's a simple game. We don't run many sets. We just come down and play. But we just trying to teach them correct principles and let them govern themselves out on the court. I think the same way off the court and in our culture. We don't micromanage. I'm not calling them every day. I can't remember now who asked me the question about recruiting. You remember, some of you, no, you guys don't, because you're all young. There was a time when we could write notes to recruits during the summer. And after every game, you would write a note, hand it to the kid or the coach and say, hey, would you pass this on? Let her know I was here. And then you could fax them at their hotel. I finally said, you know what? This is baloney. I'm tired of this. I'm not doing this anymore. Because by the time you write a note, stand in line, give it to the coach. You've missed half the next game, wherever you needed to go. So I would call the kid. I'd say, hey, listen, do I need to write you a note or fax you at the hotel after every one of your games? And if they said, well, yeah, you know, coach, I really like hearing from you. And I'd say, listen, best of luck. It's just not going to work. If they're that needy now, can you imagine when they're part of your program? So, you know, if they say, yeah, coach, that doesn't really matter. You know, I know you're there, or, you know, whatever, then those are the kids that we continued to recruit. So I don't know. You guys are all young. You don't remember those days. There was a day, literally, we could fax a kid. No more notes. We could fax them. Could you imagine faxing them and they get to the hotel and there's like 20 faxes from 20 schools saying, wow, you're really great, man. It was fun watching you. I got tired of that.
Right.
All right, Terrence, I'm sorry. I basically didn't have an answer for you.
No. Well, I kind of got stuck between a rock and a hard place because you basically answered my question through all these other guys. So thank you for elaborating.
So
I apologize for not bringing more to you.
You know, doing this, and I tried to put the attention over here. Razzle dazzle.
I love it, Coach. Thank you.
All right, buddy.
All right, let's go to Travis.
Coach, Travis Lewis, Toledo St. Francis, head boys basketball coach. You talked about watching The Last Dance and really wanted to see. I mean, as a coach, we constantly evaluate ourselves in comparison to other coaches. Wanted to know your thoughts on how Phil Jackson managed the just Jordan and Rodman and Pippen and those guys after watching all 10 series.
Okay, for the sake, or say, I don't want to turn half of you off here, but see, I'm a LeBron guy. I think LeBron's the greatest player ever as a player. Now, you MJ folks, I got you. I hear you, and I have a newfound respect for him from watching this. I watched every minute of it, loved it, and I forgot really how great he was. But Phil Jackson, man, that dude, he's on point. There's a reason he's won 11 championships, and I thought I was just impressed with how he treated those players. Weren't you?
Yeah, I think just the way he handled Dennis Rodman. I mean, seeing Rodman walk around with pajama pants on and white t-shirts, and Jordan and Pippen wearing full suits, it was just a different mindset, different personalities. I like to say a lot of times, I think coaching is more social work than anything.
I agree with you. And he let, Michael Jordan was the coach of the team, right? I mean, Michael never, put himself above Phil. He respected the position, but that's, I thought, the beauty of Phil. He was there. He definitely a leader, but he let them coach themselves. It was their team. It wasn't about him, and I love that. I think that's great. And how many championships you think LeBron wins if he's got, Phil, right? I mean, Phil's a Hall of Fame coach. That helped. LeBron, he took David Blatt, Mike Brown, Ty Lue, Eric Spoelstra. Eric's a damn good coach, but he was unproven then. He took all those guys to the NBA finals. You kidding me?
Did he allow a Hall of Fame coach to coach him?
Hey, that's a great point. I don't know. I don't know which is which. That's a great point, Travis. Hey, all I know is MJ retires to go play baseball. Yeah, right. And then I'm just kidding you, man. And they lose what, 2 more games or 3 more games the following year? He had a pretty dang good team. LeBron leaves to go to Miami, and they lose like 28 more games, right? 28 more games. And they get Kyrie number 1. All right. I didn't mean to get off topic.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Travis, in your description of Dennis Rodman, you left out the Miller Lights that he carried around with him in the locker room. That was the best part.
Jordan had a couple Miller Lights before a game. So,
all right, let's go to Aaron. Go ahead, Aaron. Aaron, you there? Okay, we'll come back to Aaron. Let's go ahead and go to David.
Coach David Bentley, assistant at Hargrave Military. Just wanted to ask with this transfer rule coming up, what your thoughts are. Obviously they say the rich will get richer, and just wanted to see, obviously being at a quote unquote rich school, what's your kind of take on this whole transfer rule they're talking about?
Well, you may not like my answer. I think a kid should be able to transfer any point. One-time transfer. I just think that's it. And who's the NCAA to say this transfer is valid, that one's not? They either let everybody or they let nobody. Men's and women's basketball and football, and I think men's ice hockey are the only sports that aren't allowed to transfer freely. And I don't think you find any more transfers in the other sports. So I'm actually for free will. Now, if they transfer a second time, maybe put a penalty. But I think one time, hey, maybe they just recruited the best player in the country at my position, or the coach left, or, you know, whatever the case may be. I think they should be allowed, but that's me.
Now, can I ask a second one to piggyback off that? If that goes in effect, does that change things for you guys, obviously?
No, because I prefer, you know, all things being equal, I like having freshmen come in, you know, and developing young players. And, but, you know, and every once in a while, maybe a transfer comes in at a, you know, you have a specific need. Like we were trying to get a grad transfer this year because I've got, we have 11 players on our team next year, 11. 7 of them are freshmen. Now 2 were in the program, got hurt, but, you know, so they're at least redshirt freshmen. So it would have been nice to maybe have a grad transfer come in, you know, in a season like this, but we're certainly not going out and recruiting, you know, players from other teams. But, you know, if they want to leave, I don't think they should be penalized for it.
Thank you.
Okay, Aaron, are you there? Okay, we're still trying to find Aaron. Let's go back to Matt.
Hey, Coach, Matt Dickman again, Sioux Falls Skyforce. You touched on passing and catching. Loved it, and I love the percentages. Is there anything else big between the 2 games that like maybe women struggle in, and like anything you would do differently from a systematic standpoint?
No, I think it's the same game. The one thing I would say, some of the differences that I see, obviously above the rim, et cetera, I think you should pressure more in women's basketball. And I don't want anybody to write me and say I'm a sexist or whatever here. Where do you learn how to play the game? You learn on the playground, right? You're out there just playing. You know, how many pickup games you see 5-on-5 women out in the park somewhere, you know, where they're just playing? That's some of the nuances. That's where you learn to play. And, you know, and some of the great ones, that's why Sabrina, you know, I love hearing her interviewed. People ask her, you know, because she's the only player. How would this be to be the only player in, you know, or the only person, you're in a club of one, 2,000 points, 1,000 assists, and 1,000 rebounds in a career. The only player, men or women, to ever do it, right? And I hear her talking about, well, she grew up playing with the boys in the park all the time. And they said, well, how come you're such a good passer? And she said, well, I had to pass or the boys wouldn't pick me on their team because I was the only girl. So I had to learn how to pass. Well, how come you're, you know, a good rebounder? Where'd that come from? Well, if I wanted to shoot, I had to go get my own rebound so that I could do it. And then the reason she was competed so well is because if she wanted to stay on the court, she had to win. So, you know, so that's kind of where you learn and you know, I would say, so put pressure on women. They're taught sometimes from when they're little girls to run plays. So, you know, different situations. If you sit in a zone, good women's team's going to kick your butt. They're going to pick you apart because they can shoot it, right? So try to put more pressure on them, trap more, those kind of things. That's what we've seen, and teams have had success with us do those kind of things. I don't know, Matt, if that's where you were going. Skill-wise, man, it's the same game, I think.
Yeah, I think from what I got from it is decision making when you're pressured is one thing so that's something that you would focus on more than maybe you would if you were coaching a men's team. Is there anything else like you can quickly just put out there, something like that? No?
I don't know. I think positive reinforcement goes really well. I think motivating by team, you know, I think sometimes when you tell a young woman, at least in my programs, you know, by your actions or your lack of production or whatever, you're letting the team down. That's powerful to them. You say that to a guy, they'll say, well, I don't care. You know, it don't matter.
Yeah, there's definitely differences in coaching in that aspect, but I appreciate your answer. Appreciate your time.
No problem. No problem.
You have a fax number, by the way? I want to send you one after this.
A fax number? Jeez. I like you, Matt.
All right. We got two more, Coach.
Okay. Yeah, I see some people yawning, so it's time to
let's go to
take
Mendel.
that stage.
Hey, Coach Mendel back again out of Minneapolis. What's your definition of success?
Mine would pale in comparison. Read John Wooden's. He has the best definition of success. So that's your homework, Mendel. It's a very famous quote. So I'm going to just leave it at that. John Wooden.
What's understood did not be explained, sir. I got you.
Okay, Aaron, we're going to try third time's a charm. All right, Aaron's.
Or 3 strikes, you're out, right?
3 strikes, you're out, I guess. Yeah, well said.
What was Michael Scott's famous line along those lines on The Office? I can't remember.
I don't know. Anybody? Any Office watchers?
Any Office fans?
I guess not. Tough crowd, Coach.
Yeah, I guess.
Hey.
I think these are Friends fans. This is more of a Friends crowd.
I saw some nods. I don't know.
You lost everybody when you said you was a LeBron fan, Coach.
Hey,
it's a lot of haters in the here, Coach. Don't worry about them. Don't worry about them.
That's okay. I told you, hey, it's 1 and 1A. I'm just saying, as a player, I think LeBron affects the game in more ways than MJ. That's just me. It's me.
I think LeBron would have more championships if he had Phil.
Well, I think so, yeah. Hey, look who that Cleveland team he got to he's had some bad teams, man. He's just put them on his back. All right.
We had a last minute question come in.
Okay, last one.
All right, Daria, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Coach Graves, I follow you on Twitter and you posting a lot of passing drills. Would you be willing to send like more information? Because I like a couple of those, and I think it will be great for us if I send you a text after that.
Yeah, I'll send you what I've got. Absolutely. Again, you guys, have you already given them my number?
I have, yep.
Okay, yeah, text me. I'll send you these 2 sheets. And then, yeah, if you have questions, whatever I have on my phone, Daria, I'd be glad to send you in terms of passing. If you follow me on Twitter at GoDucksKG, I usually drop a set or a drill about once a week at least.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we run, quick hitters, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, feel free.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Coach, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. That was tremendous.
It was an honor to be with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Best of luck to everybody.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate
Hey, guys,
it. Thank you.
Anybody who
Got it,
wants to
guys.
stick around, we're going to break down. We're going to keep going with this live episode of the Rising Coaches podcast with Terrence Oglesby as our special guest host. And we're just going to be talking about some of the things that Coach Graves talked to us about. So feel free to stay on or sign off, whatever you guys would like. I'm going to mute everyone's mic, but we will be making this interactive and, calling on people and getting their thoughts as well. So for anybody who is interested. T.O., before I first of all, I feel like I should reintroduce you. Terrence Oglesby, former player at Clemson University, former pro, and is now currently with, what are you with? Tiger Media? What is it called, Terrence?
To be honest with you, Gordo, I'm just trying to make it all work. I work with 105.5 The Roar, which is a flagship station for Clemson University, and I've done radio and television within the Clemson University athletic department. So just kind of working through, and like a lot of you, I see David Bentley, a good friend of mine. A lot of you guys, I did the coaching route for about 3 years before some things happened within the family. So yeah, I enjoy kind of sitting around. So I feel like I can empathize with what a lot of you guys are going through. So thank you for staying on.
Yeah. Before I get your thoughts, the one thing that stuck out to me, and this is like a small thing, but like everybody who asked a question, he talked to them by their name. That's a big deal. Like, I know that's a little thing, but that was like a big deal to me. He remembered everyone's name. He didn't have to like, I mean, it was every single person. He batted 1,000 on that. It just shows you the type of person he is.
Well, it shows you too how he attacks every conversation. I would imagine that's the reason he's had so much success recruiting, because the way he kind of attacks, each question that everybody, threw his way, just the ability to relate with you pretty much immediately. And even though he was giving me a hard time as a bald brother, I'll take it. But I thought it was unbelievable. I think his personality and some of the things he talked about as far as the way he recruits and everything like that, I could see him coming into somebody's living room and just blowing people away. So a really personable guy for one, and the way he holds people accountable too. I thought that was another really interesting thing.
Go into that a little more in terms of the accountability piece.
Well, we talked a little bit about it, Sabrina in particular, and he's had Vandersloot, and he's had all these different superstar girls. They've done a fantastic job as far as, you don't treat everybody the same way. And I think that's significant. He's not the first great coach to say that. Pat Summitt said a lot of the same things. You don't treat people the same way, which is, I think to me, that's a foregone conclusion. And one thing that he emphasized was, hey man, not everything is going to be fair. I'm not going to treat every person the same way, and it's not your shot, it's our shot. And those two things stuck out to me. And just being able to, I want to say, kind of filter the shot selection, or filter who your people were. I think obviously you can run a million different things, but getting the right people, the right shots is the biggest thing for me. And I'm an offensive thinking dude, so that just as well as anybody, Gordo.
Yeah, no question. Offense all the way for you.
No defense.
I didn't go that far. I didn't say no defense. I just said offense all the way.
Right.
Yeah, and like Menelik just said it in the chat there, and I'm going to get Menelik to speak up in a second, but he said the word genuine, 100%. I mean, like, I feel like he probably could have stayed on that Zoom chat for another hour talking to us about the, LeBron.
Yeah.
And even though Mendel was fist pumping over there, I had to end it. Mendel, that just made your day, didn't it?
Oh man. Can nothing go wrong for the rest of the day, I tell you.
Menelik, what about you, man? What was your biggest takeaway, other than the level of genuinity? That's not a word.
I think genuineness.
Yeah,
I don't know. For me, it was just exactly that. There wasn't much that was beyond that. I don't know much about this particular coach other than doing a little bit of topical research after, like, you guys posted that he was going to speak. Obviously, I'm from Canada, so who's who of coaches I don't get the same way that you guys do. So when I was listening to him, I'm like, okay, this guy's successful. I get it. Right away, you can clue in on the little breadcrumbs that he leaves as to why he's successful, in terms of he knows the motivational points, but then he's able to relate them to the specific people that he's talking to. And just like Adam said, he used everyone's name when he replied to them, and he had a little quip for everybody that he was talking to as well that made them feel involved and part of the process. So to me, as a coach, whenever you can make it interactive and fun and captivating and sincere at the same time, just shows who you are. When he was talking about himself, a little bit older, a little bit fatter, a little bit balder, all that stuff, I was loving it, because I'm like, I'm aging. I'm a cresting coach now. I'm not really as rising anymore. And I loved everything he was saying about it.
Yeah, for sure. David, by the way, came through just now with the Michael Scott quote. David, you're just 5 minutes too late, but it's still good. So he was referencing The Office. So what is it, David? Fool me once, strike one. Fool me twice, strike three. That's pretty good, actually. It's a pretty good quote. Tio, what else, man? What else?
I thought one thing that stood out to me, as far as he talked about the kind of player he recruits and how he looked at athleticism, to me, because a lot of times I think certain people, I've been on the baseline at these AAU tournaments, and you look at athleticism as who runs the best or who jumps the highest. And he talked more specifically about functional athleticism. And there's a lot of guys that me and you know, and everybody in the chat knows, that they are elite runners and jumpers, but it's not necessarily effective. So the way he talked about who he recruits and how he recruits, I thought that was intriguing. And one more thing, and it kind of goes along with the genuineness that you guys are talking about, the managers. And that was something small. And not everybody's like this, because I've been in certain places where it's not that way. And the managers just, if somebody has a bottle of water, they'll just throw it at the manager, even though he's not looking. And the culture of respect, I think that's part of the whole thing for him. The culture of respect from top to bottom. And it goes all the way from him to his players, to his managers, not necessarily in that order. Everybody's just together and everybody's got one common goal. And it goes to, the managers and respecting the managers, and the appreciation for everybody in the program stuck out to me. And I'm sure that the ultra successful, like Coach Graves, I think that's a common theme among them.
Yeah, that was really good when he was telling that story about the managers and the water.
And it teaches your players, and it teaches your players too, like appreciation for what people are doing for you. And not everything should be taken for granted. I can remember specifically as a player, getting irritated at managers. But at the same time, Oliver Purnell, who I played for, he checked me a couple times, as you remember. And he was a successful coach as well, obviously not on the level that Graves has been, but still at the same time, a culture of respect from top to bottom, that really stuck out to me. I don't know if it stuck out to everybody else, but that popped off to me right off the bat.
Yeah, for sure.
I would add this. I like the fact that he always go back to simplicity, just being simple. Even in his answers, he wasn't trying to answer in some great, talk or anything like that. He kept everything very simple. And I feel like at times, as coaches, we try to complicate things in how we answer questions or how we deal with people, when if really you keep it simple. I mean, to a point, he even said, well, I'm not that bright. I just keep things very simple. That is what pops up to me right away. Just even at that level, for a coach that have been that successful, to still keep things as simple as possible is definitely refreshing for me.
For sure.
Just to build on that real quick, too, the ability to make things simple is something that to me, it looked like it definitely showed. But a lot of people talk about keeping it simple and all that kind of stuff or whatever, but then a lot of people don't have the ability to take something that's complex and make it simple for the lay person, et cetera. And he does that in all of his banter back and forth.
Yeah, no question.
Can I add to that, Adam?
Yeah, go for it, Travis.
This really, I think his ability to have confidence in himself. I mean, he opened it up by saying, hey, I'm not a John Gordon book. I don't do he was just himself the whole time, which was genuine from the start of, I'm not trying to be somebody that I'm not. I'm not trying to go with the wave of writing down your quote of the day, your goals of the day. I want you to be able to hoop. I want you to be able to be bought into our culture, and I'm going to give you the best of me each day. And I thought for me, that was just saying, hey, I'm confident in who I am, and that's what's going to make me successful. So it was good to take that away from him.
Yeah, but he balanced that confidence with zero ego too, which is even more that's even more rare, because you see a lot of these really successful coaches have that ultra confidence. They also have that ultra ego too, and he didn't have any of that. He didn't come off like he was better than anybody.
I agree.
To my point, I think he would have stayed on that Zoom chat all day with all of us, just talking hoops.
I thought it was funny, Adam. Out of we all talk about keep it simple, and that's what his whole thing was. The game of basketball came down for him to passing and catching. That's something that everybody, some people, as coaches, and myself in particular, when I was coaching at Carson Newman University, I would get to thinking about level 3, 4, and 5, as opposed to, hey man, passing and catching, that in itself is, just keep it simple. And if you can't do those steps 1 and 2, then how in the world are you going to be able to have a successful team. Like he said, if the wrong person gets the right shot, it's still the wrong shot. So I thought a lot of that stuff, the ability to keep it simple and not get ahead of yourself, is something he's obviously mastered.
And shooting.
Yeah, shooting. Yeah.
30 minutes a day on shooting. That's a lot.
That is a lot. Yeah.
Hey, John, you played for Coach Knight. How often would you guys shoot in practice? Every day to start, even in our pre-practice, we'd have individual, workouts there, setting up cuts. We do the first, I'm trying to break it down in my mind. That was a long time ago, of course, but between about 15 and 30 minutes each day to start practice. Okay. They're literally the same things every single day. Yeah. I'm sure you love that as a player. Oh yeah. Setting up cuts, blisters on the side of your feet, man. It's yeah. I don't put our girls through that, but I try to do as much shooting as we can. Yeah. 30 minutes a day though sounds like a lot. Mm-hmm. And then you're working on passing. I wanted to ask like how much of practice is spent on defense. But because if you're spending like that much time on passing, catching, shooting, I mean, you're already at an hour. So I don't know. Mm-hmm. But obviously he knows what he's doing. Translated into a lot of wins for him. Well, any final thoughts? I mean, I was blown away. I thought it was one of the better ones we had. And again, simple, genuine, honest. I feel like he's like that with everybody probably. He really did come off as like a genuine learner or like a lifelong learner. And he had even though he did keep it simple, he had a lot of things like at his fingertips in terms of quotes, references and things like that. So
one thing I will point out that I noticed is how analytic driven he was. And for somebody who's done it for so long, a lot of guys start to rely on feel. And for him to still be able to pop off a lot of those things like that, I thought that was pretty impressive. I thought, he was pretty, he's obviously been able to blend both of them at a high level, but for him to be able to pull those stats out and be that analytical towards his work while also kind of keeping his core values, and obviously they coincide. I thought that was pretty good.
He knew stats about the men's game too, right? Like he knew Andy's stuff right away. I thought that was incredible. He's obviously spending time with it and incorporating what he's been doing for 20 years, like he said, with what is coming out and what is new and making it his own.
I think even when he spoke about efficiency and, their pace of play and total number of possessions, like so often in press conferences and everything, you hear everyone talk about, we want to play fast. We're going to get, out and run and do all these things. Well, if, they're paying more attention to their efficiency and number of possessions that they don't lose in turnovers and things like that, to still be able to score at a high rate and put those points up that people want to see, but to do it as efficient as possible.
Helps when you have Sabrina too. I'm sorry to throw that part in there, but
yeah, say it. He was the first one to say that.
Yeah.
What did he say? He said, you could be the best coach in the world, but if I got better players than you, I'm going to beat you 9 times out of 10.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, guys, I appreciate you guys sticking on. That was great. Let's leave it with this because Menelik, I appreciate you grabbing this quote. He referenced the John Wooden quote. He didn't tell us what it was, but he kind of gave it as homework. So success, I think Mendel was the one that asked him what his definition of success is. And he said John Wooden's is the best one out there, basically. Success is peace of mind that is the direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing you did your best to become the best that you are capable of becoming. Pretty good. Well said, John Wooden. And well said, Kelly Graves. So appreciate you guys. Menelik, thanks for grabbing that quote. Appreciate all you guys sticking around. T.O., it's been fun, man. We got to do it again.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for letting me join in and be a part of the experience. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys.